starts. Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's the end of the year. Well, not really, but it's the end of the year for us. It's the end of the year for Comic Book Roundtable. We're going to take a few weeks off. So this week, I just kind of opened it up to a free-for-all. We're just going to basically BS comic books. What was good, what wasn't good, what are we looking forward to, what shocked us, what didn't shock us, all that kind of good stuff and whatever else random things we can think of. If you happen to be in the comment section, ask questions as long as they're relevant and whatever. And anyway, got lots of people tonight, and we'll see people pop in and out. I threw out a bunch of invites. There were people who said they might show up late or whatever, so we'll torture them as they come in and whatnot. And yeah, we'll talk some comics. So tonight, so far, who we have with us? We have J-Rock. Sir, how's it going?
Hey, going good, beating the weather.
Yeah, he's freezing to death in Southern California. Yeah, he had to he had to close his windows today. That's how cold it was. Yeah. Man, okay. So next to him we have Brandon McHammer. How's it going, sir?
I'm all right. I love how you describe it as torture. You're really selling people coming on now because torturing them.
Yes. Yes, that's what it's all about. And next to Brennan, we have Rez from Rez Reads. How's it going?
It's going great. Just enjoying my night.
Yeah, right on. We're going to be here talking some books. And, of course, always with us, we have Mike, Sergeant America, sir, who probably is in the coldest spot right now.
Sergeant America coming at you, burr.
Yes, exactly. So, a year's worth of comics. Where do we want to start talking books? I know the first thing I talk about, do you guys do like comic book resolutions where you go, this year I'm going to do X? You guys do that? I do. No. And it's the same thing every year. Same thing every year. And I'm never successful at it. I always go, I'm going to put my books away as I get them. I'm not going to let them stack up. Right? So
I don't know what you're talking about over here.
Yeah.
Well, see,
don't pay no attention.
Now, see, Brandon, you should just say it. They're put away. You know exactly where they're all at. Yeah, this is my biggest year of getting comic books as far as single issues. I haven't actually tallied up the exact number yet, but it's multiple long boxes worth, and they're all stuck in my room where my drum kit is. They're all stacked against the wall. I couldn't do a green screen shot right now if I wanted to, because that wall is like filled with comic books. That I'm hoping I get some time off here after the holidays to maybe put them in boxes. And now I'm starting to worry that I don't have enough boxes, so I've got my boxes and all that kind of horrible stuff and whatnot. So what kind of I'm going to do this year did you guys have for this last year, and did you come anywhere close to making it? Anybody?
It's normally back issue related, and I didn't buy a lot of back issues this year at all.
So you were planning. So you're planning on it, and then just didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it was mostly Wonder Woman Volume 2, but I just did not do. I didn't buy a lot of back issues this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't go to any cons this year either, so I don't know.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cons can be a mixed bag, that's for sure.
I haven't gone to one yet.
Yeah. Mike, any I'm gonna do this and not sticking to it or whatever?
No, because I know I have no willpower whatsoever, so I don't even bother lying to myself on that now.
Smart. I tell myself that all the time, and then mentally I go, "Oh, I'm gonna do it. This is the year." Yeah, whatever. Rez, did you have plans for this last year? I mean, so at least for me anyway, you're relatively new to the YouTube gig as far as comic books. Clearly, you've been reading comic books for quite some time. Mm-hmm. I mean, did you have a plan for the year?
Yeah, my plan was to, continue on my journey of collecting hardcovers and stuff like that. But I apparently fell deep into the abyss of single issues, and it's got out of control. So I'm really crossing my fingers that I literally knocked down this rule of sticking on the series for 5 issues, because I have read a plethora of issues or titles per se that are really, they don't bode well with me after maybe 1 or 2 issues. So I think for me, my goal is to actually kind of just start teetering off of some titles and kind of like start collecting things I don't like, and then just creating some little bundles of gifts for people.
Sure. Give somebody else some of those books that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's generally, just because one person's like it doesn't mean somebody else isn't gonna find them fun or whatever. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That I mean, and I think we've seen a few people fall down the rabbit hole. I only collect trades, and I only collect whatever, and then suddenly you buy those first couple of singles, and then it's a slippery slope after that, for sure. It's
the Mylar.
Yeah, is that what it is?
It's the Mylar's so shiny.
Yeah. I don't know what my excuse is, because I'm too cheap to buy the Mylars, and I still end up with a ton of books. But I like reading in singles. I mean, I get the whole read and trade. I do buy some stuff in trade if I totally missed the boat on something and pick it up afterwards. But I really do enjoy reading the monthly. I
You
guess.
miss out on this.
Yeah, I guess.
The weekly discussion.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. And I have to admit, this causes me to buy a lot more books than what I would otherwise. YouTube is another big hit on the pocketbook. Just watching everybody else's videos and what everybody else is talking about, and I inevitably end up
Like
with
you're
books
not
that-
equally as guilty for me.
Oh, heck
making
yeah.
me buy books.
Heck yeah! I mean, if I'm gonna go broke, I'm gonna take everybody else with me. There's no doubt about it. I'm still working on you and your whole I'm only buying 10 books a week thing.
Oh yeah, I already told him about that. I told him.
Well, next year's going to be an issue, I think, of trying to keep up with that, because there's a lot of number ones I'm picking up. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to last.
Well, I mean, really, I mean, I'm to me that's an admirable goal, because I read a lot of books that are like mediocre, and if I was really honest with myself, I could probably figure out how to start dropping some of them, and I will now. Now that the whole DC bundle thing, for instance, I'm done with that. There's books that I'm going to start peeling away. It's like, you know what? I'm really not enjoying this. I can get this somewhere else, and they're going to start disappearing. I think. I say that, but we'll see what really happens.
I'm already like, no.
That's already a goal. That
I've been watching you for a while, Travis. You're going to keep on.
Yeah. Well, I just keep thinking, I don't want to go down to 10 a week, but I'd like to get down to where 20 is a big week. And right now it seems like 20 to 25 is.
I wish I had 20 a week. Sometimes I'm like, dang, I'm barely getting 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, that's not a bad thing though. If everything you're getting is quality stuff and whatnot, that's okay. So, J-Rock, I'm doing this year. Did you accomplish anything as far as?
I had read a few Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to collect the whole Star Wars thing, and I got a good amount in trade. I got about like 80% of the trades this year of the Star Wars, the old omnibuses.
Nice.
And now I need to read them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing with me, because of course I get so many weekly books. If I buy trades, then it's like, okay, when do I squeeze that in amongst everything else that I'm reading? Plus everything else that's going on. So it's like, we'll see.
When I was buying singles, the day I would get them, I would sit down and read them all that day. And with trades, it's like I'll buy 3 and I'll read like 1. And I'll just let the other one sit there.
Oh, well, see, I don't know. That's a good thing, though. I mean, I at least get my stuff generally read. So
yeah, I'm gonna read them, but I just fall behind that way. For some reason, with the singles, I read them like immediately when I get them, and with the trades, I tend to like lag it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, I still have one trade that I got last Christmas I haven't read yet. Yeah. So I could get on that, I guess. So get it read before before Christmas comes around. So I can say, so I got it done.
Over. Yeah, I think if I had a comic book store close by, I'd be more willing to buy like the singles as soon as they come out.
Sure.
But since it's so far away, it's like I'll just order them online. They're cheaper, and why drive so far? Because my closest store is like an hour away. So I'll just order them, and by the time they get here, it's 2 weeks later. So I don't know, it's a big turn off.
And it's too cold outside. And
yeah, could rain. It could rain.
Yeah, well, some of us, of course, used Discount Comic Book Service, not to not to plug them per se, but with us, it's this trick is you have to order, 2 or 3 months in advance, of what you're getting, and to some degree, you're taking kind of a leap of faith. You can't like pick the book up and thumb through and go, oh, this clearly isn't art for me, and put it back on the shelf and not get it. You're always, well, me and Rez, we're like 3 issues into a book before we can even begin to think, okay, I don't want to get this book anymore. I mean, to drop it, you're committed to 3 issues already. I mean, the upside is there's a big discount involved, but it's sometimes an adventure. Or a book this week that I got issue number 1 of, and I really, really enjoyed it. And of course, I had already decided not to get it, so I don't have issue number 2. So now I'm going to scramble to try and find issue number 2. Rock Stars, that came out by Image Comics. It's a Joe Hill book, and I haven't been really excited by a lot of Joe Hill books, but I really like this one.
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris, thank you, not Joe Hill. I don't always want to do that, but Joe Harris. As a matter of fact, it was just earlier at the beginning of this year, right? Was it the beginning of this year Snowfall came out?
Yeah.
And I think
I was looking at that book, Snowfall.
Yeah, but I think half of us here got that book, at least got issue 1, and we all went, oh, this is not what we want.
Yeah.
And we all dropped it. So not to say that it might not interest you, but it was just, I don't know, it was really,
it interests me.
it was that first issue was really, really flat. So, but this one was really cool because, I mean, Rock Stars, it has to do with rock and roll, which of course I like that, and it has to kind of do with the mythos and the, all the stories you hear about the stuff that rock and roll, people did, and the Mud Shark stuff, and just all the other the Led Zeppelin into the Black Magic, and all that kind of what's on the record that you spin backwards. Well, some of that stuff's real in this comic book, and there's a guy who's kind of investigating that. This girl has disappeared back in the 1970s. There seems to be a reoccurred crime that looks exactly like that, and he's investigating that kind of a thing. And it was just really cool. The art was really neat in it. Now, like I said, I'm going to be calling up Discount Comics over some, begging them to get me a 2, hopefully. So
when you posted that panel on Twitter, I didn't make the connection because I was like, okay, there's the Pink Floyd thing, the Wizard of Oz, and I knew the whole situation where if you play it backwards or whatever, but I didn't make that connection with the Twitter panel. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, there's the first opening pages of it have a lot of those kinds of references. It shows one of the things, is supposedly you can sync up Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz, and it plays perfectly along with that. Yeah. So there's like pictures in the background of that. There's also pictures in the background of Paul saying that he's dead, and all the different Beatles stuff and whatnot in it. But I really liked Megan Hutchinson's art in the book. I don't know. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty cool and whatnot. But yeah, in this case, it's a case about these 2 girls that are, groupies, and they in 1974, I believe, and they disappear. One of them is found murdered, and the other one just never reappeared again. And this young guy is, using some stuff and, some psychic stuff and just some detective work to put together all the different bits and pieces to try and figure out what happened to him. And by the end of it, he's teamed up with a musician who is also a music journalist, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They break into this morgue where this new body has been found, this new body's been put into, and at the end of it, there's some creepy stuff going on. This group of ladies shows up. They were around in the 1970s too, and they're all kind of pretty trippy, and they seem somewhat demonic or something like that, because they're at the very end. They're looking really, ignore the naked body. Yeah, right. But so things are not all as they seem, and we'll see what happens. But I like the first issue. But then I'm a sucker for the whole rock and roll mythos thing. So
yeah.
And Comics to Comics joins us.
How's it going?
Not too bad.
I'm keeping the tradition alive. I'm having my dinner, and I don't have most of my books read. So
that's all right. We're not really, other than me just slipping in this one, we're not really necessarily talking this week's books. I was just talking about stuff in general. We had been kind of talking if we had made some, I don't know if New Year's resolution is the right thing to call it, but just at the beginning of the comic book year, we said, I'm going to do this with my collection or about my collection or whatever. And were we successful or not successful with it? Did you have something that you said, this is what I'm doing with my collection this year? For me, it was I'm going to make sure I put my books away as I get them. And like every year I completely fail. I crash and burn.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah. So Anything like that for you?
Just keeping my poll a little bit lower than usual. I thought your resolution was this last year's was not to go to a certain website anymore.
You know, did I? I don't know if I did that at the beginning of the year, but certainly I by a quarter of the year in, I pretty much completely boycott Bleeding Cool. I don't mind saying it on the video. The chances of
I was about to ask you.
You're going to summon the demon. How dare you?
That's what I was saying.
Wow. Awesome. If Rich wants to show up in the comments, or if Rich wants to come on, Rich Johnson, come on the show sometime and talk about his interpretation of journalism versus my interpretation of journalism, that would be great. You know, if he wants to come on and deflect a whole bunch and make up excuses for why he just kind of throws around rumor and trash talk and stuff, that's cool. But
and I just barely started checking out Bleeding Cool.
yeah.
I heard of them for a while, but I just never bothered to like check out their website.
Well, I just know that if you're on Twitter and you say Bleeding Cool and you say anything that's remotely not positive, Rich Johnson, who kind of runs Bleeding Cool, he'll act like he doesn't, but he does. It's his creation. Will come on and in some form or another harass you. Am I wrong?
I'm gonna test this out and see.
It works.
Oh,
It's literally saying Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror.
I'm gonna go on
It's like
Twitter and just do
Beetlejuice.
it.
Yeah, Beetlejuice too.
What's his name? Rob Liefeld just blocked me on Twitter. I don't know what happened. Comment and it didn't let me.
Because you have regular human proportions?
Yeah.
No, because we were having a conversation about the Lakers, and he's like a big Kobe fan. And I started talking about how, I don't like Kobe, I'm on Team Shaq, and I don't know what happened, and next thing you know, I couldn't message him anymore.
That's pretty funny that you get blocked. It doesn't even do with comic books, which you think would be the number one thing that people will go after Rob Liefeld for.
I don't know. No, I was kind of a Rob Liefeld fan growing up, so I never really talk about his work. I collect some of his stuff, but yeah, I don't know if it was because of the basketball conversation or because of something else. Because after that, we finished the conversation. Then like 2 days later, I tried to send him another message and about something else, and I was blocked.
Well, what people don't understand about Rob Liefeld, the comics recently, like you look at his shitty work and you're like, this is terrible. But in the 90s,
yeah, it wasn't too bad.
He was it.
Yeah.
You could not go in a shop without having his stuff plastered all over the place. He was it. Him and McFarlane and Lee.
Yeah, cause I have a lot of his early X-Force stuff, but yeah, if you look at his like mid-90s, like 96, X-Men and X-Force, then it's not that good anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? Every time somebody says that, I am just so thankful that I had college debt and I had children and I had all of that kind of stuff to keep me from experiencing the 90s because my God.
I feel the same way about his art. I just can't do it. It makes my eyes hurt.
It's gotten worse as it's gone on.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Most artists get better as they go. But
yeah, as I looked into the like mid-90s, like 95, 96, I noticed it wasn't the same. I think a lot of it is with the colors and inkers and stuff he used back in the earlier years. It made his art look better.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're saying that artists get better as they get older. They get better up to a point, and then if they start to slide, it's because of health, right? Their eyes are going, their whatever's going. You know, Rob is, to the best of my knowledge, still in pretty good health. At least the last time I saw him a couple of years ago, he was looking fine. So
yeah. Also, sometimes they don't work as often, so you gotta practice your craft to keep good at it.
Yeah.
Like who was it?
Of course, I will be the first to admit he draws a lot more teeth than I could ever possibly draw, and he draws a lot more pouches than me. So I have to give him credit. I have to give him credit for all that stuff. He does all of those things a lot better than me. So you know,
he does a lot of pockets.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, and you know, for whatever reason, there's Deadpool, which I personally can't stand, but. It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. So he's got that, you know, and nobody can really take that away from him. You know, it's just like as much as you want to say all of Marvel creations back in the Silver Age was, you know, all those artists, and Stan Lee had nothing to do with it. You can't totally take it away from Stan. Stan actually contributed. He contributed in some sense. If he wasn't there to be the showman, if nothing else, the stuff would have never been produced possibly for us to have what we have. So,
did you ever read Stan Lee Does the DC Universe? Have you ever come across that or anything like that? It is horrendous.
Oh, I know.
I highly recommend, at least if you see it just paging through it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
I haven't read it, but I heard of that book.
Oh. And it just makes me go, thank God he never got a hold of the DC Universe. That's I mean, not to say that other people haven't done their fair share of damage. I mean, it'll be interesting years from now if I'm still alive for the discussion about what did Dan Didio do to the DC Universe or not. I mean, because there's some people that would debate as to whether or not he's done good things or bad things. So, and I don't know what to say. I mean, there are times I get really angry with the dude, and I think, man, he's really wrecked the universe. But there's other times, some of these launches and some of the directions they go aren't all bad. I mean, there's books that come out that I would have never seen without them doing some of the stuff they did. So, yeah, I don't know. So, let's talk the big two for a few minutes. A year of change, right? I mean, at least like DC clearly, you know, pulled the rug out from underneath their universe and reset a lot of it. Soft boot, hard boot, however you want to call it. For those of us who read those books, was it a success? Do you think?
Yes.
I enjoyed the.
Yeah.
So I got a.
You broke up on me, Mike.
Oh, I just got. I have a ton more DC books, so I definitely would consider it
Brandon, what do you think?
Oh, it was definitely a success. When the New 52 was ending, it was kind of a chore to get through some of those books. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling the universe at all. It just kind of felt like it definitely felt like it had no life to any of the books. And it definitely needed reinvigoration. And unlike Marvel, which it does it every year when it just like, well, why? It didn't feel like it needed one. DC definitely needed one. So.
Cool. CDC?
A mixed blessing. I would say a mixed blessing. I would say there's some things that have really benefited from it, and then some things that have kind of gone stagnant. Things I understand that Catwoman's going to be back on some level, but I feel like she really suffered from it. She's not really around anymore as a character. I did read that. I'm catching up. I was not picking up my comics regularly for the past month, but I'm catching up on Batman. So Batman's definitely suffered quite a bit as a comic book, I'd say, even though I don't, necessarily love the Snyder run, but it was better than what's going on right now. And then Wonder Woman, I feel, has benefited to a degree. I think the people that are kind of detracting from it right now, once you get past it a little bit and the split between the two and kind of look back, I think you'll like it a lot more. I think the idea that it was every other week you're getting a different, this story I'm not liking as much as the other story. I can understand that, but I don't know. I think I was a little more excited at the beginning of the New 52, though, than I was at this, if that makes sense.
Sure. And I think for me it was like the opposite. I mean, I was in the dread of the New 52 when it first landed. Just the fear of, oh my God, what are they doing to a universe that to me had been around for forever, that had been kind of slowly changes but never really changes kind of thing, and for them to make it sound like they're throwing. Whereas the Rebirth stuff to some degree felt less dire, I guess. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
For me, it's clearly a mixed bag. Obviously an opportunity if you feel you need the beginning of something to jump into something. It gives us all that ability to do and whatnot. Clearly a positive for DC on the sales purposes. I mean, they're making way more money. They have more market share than they ever have had. So that's all a positive as far as that goes. But like anything else, there's good stuff and bad stuff in amongst that as far as the individual books.
I look at the new 52, and of course there was the Supermans and the Batmans, but there's also Justice League Dark. There was also I, Vampire. There was these kind of out there books, and I feel like you're not seeing a lot of that with Rebirth compared to the beginning of the New 52.
No, you're right. They dialed it back. They played safe and stuck to smaller books and then kind of rolling out little things as they go along, right?
Yeah.
So, Rez, did you use the Rebirth as an opportunity to start? Because you weren't reading a lot of superhero books, right?
Yeah, I wasn't reading any DC really, besides DC Vertigo, DC Wildstorm, some back issues of things. But I did at some point decide to jump into DC Rebirth, and I pretty much jumped into Batman. I had got some absolutes like Batman, Hush and Court of Owls, but then I kind of wanted to see what this new Batman was going to be like, and I'm going to stick with it. It's not my favorite title. I wouldn't even put him in a top title of this year for me personally, but yeah, it's giving me the opportunity to try to check out what DC has going on as far as Rebirth. But I think what I've read so far, I don't really know if Detective Comics counts as a Rebirth because it's still continuing on with the number 900 something.
It is, but they started it back up again because it had been down in the single digits.
Okay, so, yeah, because I'm really liking Detective a lot more.
Yeah.
And I've been dipping in All-Star Batman as well, which issue 3 was the best from what I read of all. Was it 4 or 5 issues that have come out already? But yeah, not really still kind of not the biggest DC fan, but as far as what they're offering right now, but I definitely like Detective.
Yeah. So Jay, did you use this opportunity to try and pick up singles for a bit? You read some for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I was reading. I enjoyed the books I picked up. I was reading the Aquaman and the Detective comics.
Yeah.
I thought they were both real good. I was digging both of them. I think Detective Comics was one of those books that right when I got it, it was one of the first ones I wanted to read. I think I read up to issue 5. I got up to issue 5 on both. I think I'm gonna pick up both in hardcover when they come out.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, I've heard that about Aquaman, and I'm kind of mad that I dropped it because everyone's saying it got really good there, and I'm a fan of Aquaman, unlike someone else in this chat. And so I'm kind of mad I dropped it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was a completely different Aquaman from what I remember Aquaman being. When I got introduced to him, he was more aggressive, and he had the hook hand and the beard, and it was completely different. That's the Aquaman.
That was Go ahead. I was just gonna say that was their way of trying to make him cool, is to make him kind of edgy and all that. And I thought, that's not how you do that. You put responsibility on the guy. He's responsible for the whole ocean, and you kind of make him almost a diplomat and having to deal with it. And I think that's what they did with this run. I think it's way better.
Yeah, because I remember I got introduced to him to comics in the 90s. So that's the Aquaman I got introduced to. So I thought he was always that way. Then this one was a completely different personality.
So Marvel. Let's talk Marvel now. They've kind of got their Marvel now. Capital now. I'm not sure. I'm not to pick on them. That confuses me though, because it wasn't that long ago, a year and a half ago or so. Didn't we have Marvel now? And now they're using that as their catchphrase again. So I don't know. And there's some hiccups in that as far as for me anyway, because of course it's coming off of their kind of launching it off of their the end of Civil War II, which of course is kind of trickling out. Mike told me before we started up that the last issue is supposed to come out next week. It sounds like.
I was joking about Secret Wars still coming out. But because that's where I think we saw a push for new branding that I don't think they were 100% behind. So then they continue to play around, keep bringing up old ideas, and I think they're stuck in that cycle.
Yeah. But they have books that are coming out, that are starting to come out now, that I'm excited about this week. Hawkeye came out. I love that book, and a little bit of a conversation on Twitter. There were some people who said maybe it was a little light on story. Maybe it was, but I think it was deep on character as far as establishing who Kate Bishop is and whatnot. I really, really enjoyed the issue. I'm excited for that. I'm really intrigued by the the Hulk that's coming out, that's going to be coming out, where it's Jennifer Walters. How are they going to play with that character, especially using what happened to her in Civil War II? How she's going to respond to that, because she was, my understanding was put near death in that title. So what is she going to change dramatically coming out of that? And part of me wonders if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm interested in that. I think this year's been a super strong year for like Thor, for instance. That book has sounded like nothing but great. This year, Marvel took, I think, a chance on letting a guy by the name of Tom King do the Vision, and I feel like that's way high up on my list of book of the year. And I think it's a book that will be talked about years from now. People will go back and have a conversation about that book. I think that's a book that may potentially quickly end up in people's academia even. Whereas me personally, I have a problem with the larger Marvel universe. It seems have a lot of hiccups in it and stuff. There's all these other great little books they have on the side that they let kind of have a chance, and kind of what CDC was saying about the fact that DC doesn't have these kind of odd books yet. They're kind of slowly trying to work them in. Now Marvel's the company that's got these kind of off the side kind of books, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I'm always apprehensive to step into the greater universe, but those little books are, for me anyway, I think are working really well. You guys have thoughts on where Marvel's going? Or
I'm working on a video very slowly on how I think Jason Aaron as a writer is just super underappreciated by that company. I think he's really keeping my interest, at least in Marvel, afloat right now, with Thor and Doctor Strange and all of that going on right now. Unworthy Thor is amazing. Obviously Vision. Miss Marvel, I think I'd tell people to give it a shot. I mean, I liked it a little bit better earlier, but it's still a pretty solid title.
I enjoy that book, but it's losing steam, right?
Yeah. What else?
Spider-Woman.
I'm enjoying Spider-Woman. I'm enjoying the funny. Okay, this is and I'm not like I'm trying to think of a male character I'm enjoying. Just kidding. But Wolverine, I'm enjoying. Gal, hold on, I'll think of one.
Well, yeah, on this last video I just did, my new comic book video, I was commenting on the fact that I'm picking up all these what seem to be great Marvel women titles and whatnot. And it just surprises me how well really they're doing, and there was some discussion on there. Is that an editorial thing? Are they the ones that are responsible for that? Is the creators, Cammie Reader 1717, I haven't got a chance to respond to her in the comments on that yet. She was commenting on the fact that she didn't really think it was the audience that was creating that situation. That it was, and I agree with her. I mean, I think she misunderstood me thinking that we as an audience have grown so much that's why those books are successful. I don't know if that's happened yet, because of course you see the ugly side of Twitter and all that kind of stuff with the stuff that's going on against these people who are trying to create this new product and whatnot. But I do think that Marvel, regardless of those fanboys, they're putting money behind these diverse characters.
I also think that they're willing to. I think with the male characters, that's where you're kind of seeing the stagnation and the, let's play it safe. Right. And I think that's where the female characters, they're taking risks. They're putting them in interesting situations. They're kind of putting, I don't want to say originality, because I also I'm being pejorative, but I mean, they are taking risks with these characters, and it's more interesting that way. I mean, the Vision's technically a male character. They took a huge risk with that, and it paid off, and I enjoyed that. Where if I go and I read the Avengers or anything like that, it's going to be the same old over it. I'm enjoying the art, but
they make Captain America a Hydra agent.
I think that didn't get the reaction out of me that it was supposed to, because I think that was supposed to make me furious. I think Spencer, to a degree, played into that. I mean, he's like that on Twitter anyway. But I think that was supposed to, and I think a lot of people didn't realize they were being played that way to elicit that anger from it. I don't think people realized that was the point.
Yeah.
Is I want you to be mad. I want you to flip out over this. They thought,
because then the next issue they kind of fixed it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, that didn't really, I don't want to be like this guy, but it's like I've been reading comic books long enough.
Right.
I know exactly what this is. It's not really. I don't know. It's funny because all these people, I'm a long-time fan. Okay, then why are you mad? Because this is not, I would be blown away if they just went full-blown Nazi with him and that's the way they went. I'd be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'd be blown away if that was just the whole series of him just being a complete Nazi, like nutcase. I'd be like, whoa.
Right. Right. But they didn't even commit to it to a full issue. That's the kind of the crazy thing for it. So yeah. I
also feel like we're seeing with Marvel what I call the first 5 issues. They sold you on the writer, they sold you on the artist, and then they quickly will switch over, or they get in such controversy like Unworthy Thor, they can't keep the guy on for 3 or more.
Oh, is that changing artists? Because that art is great.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think, because I was talking with someone at my shop about this, and I don't want to dive into this too much because it is your show, and that's more for my every once in a while show that I've only done one time, but it will come up again, is kind of, I think a lot of comic books nowadays are kind of trying to create that controversy, if you will, to a degree. And not that that's a new thing, by the way. I mean, I remember when Batman got his back broken, that was like, oh, how dare you kill Batman off, kind of thing. But I don't think people realize that's all it is, repackaged. And they know that if one side gets, and I don't even like saying side, but if one group gets incensed, that means sales over here. I don't think they realize that.
Yeah.
Not to... I'm gonna love looking at the comments in this video later.
Yeah. So I just, speaking of people that are in the chats right now, Captain Strangeliffe is in the comments. Hi Hans, and he was just saying all I wanted to see for Christmas was my beard lit up. I actually originally had planned on coming with lots of little Christmas. I have them, little Christmas bulbs to hang in my beard. I just didn't get time to actually do it. So, and then I was worried I wasn't gonna be able to talk without them all falling out. So I kind of went against it.
Oh, I thought he meant like on fire. I was like, holy crap.
Well, I hope that's not what he was. That's what he was meaning. So, no, I don't plan on.
First of all, that's a shit superpower. So
I was gonna say I don't plan on burning. Yeah, but so let's get into some other stuff. Let's see. Best comics of the year. What are like immediately at the top of your tongue? Best comics of the year.
Flintstones.
I have to do my order this weekend, and I'm ordering the first trade.
Yeah, totally out of left field. I mean, it was a lot smarter and a lot sharper than I expected.
Yeah.
I mean, just get the Vision out of the way, and let's go to something else, because, I mean, I think that's all going to be on everyone's list. I'm going to go, and this might be one that's kind of out of left field, I'm going to go Weird World.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that was one that I kind of picked up on a whim. And wait, did the Secret Wars one come out this year too?
Just at the end. I mean, there might have been one issue before, but it's right around there.
I'm counting it. Then. But I'm also counting the series that had the new character in it too. I thought that was a really fun series that I could have seen continue. Really fun.
Yeah. I actually have a lot. I'm horrible at actually picking. Like I was gonna say, there's one. I mean, the Vision's really high. I really love Sheriff of Babylon. Just an incredibly tense book. I think it's one of the tensest books I read, and it was literally lots of times it was just like 2 or 3 people standing in a room having a conversation, and just I don't know, just I had more anxiety over some of the stuff going in that book just for how tense it was. Shit moments in a comic book that just totally blew my mind. Deadly Class.
Yeah.
A few issues ago. Right?
That's what I was going to say.
So half of Twitter is on, asking Rick Remender if the book is over because of one of the people that dies in the book. You're just like, wait, I mean, The book is based around him, isn't it? What's going on? So
What issue is Deadly Class in?
it's on 22 or 3 now, isn't it?
24, I think was the last issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 24.
And it was issue 21, I believe. Issue 21's the issue that was the
Yes.
oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Holy cows. Yeah.
I would also probably throw in. I'm trying to think of one that's not necessarily on everyone's tip of their tongue. Lazarus, I'd throw in.
Always a strong book. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of big two.
A book I'm really loving right now. Black Hammer from
That's really good.
from Dark
That's really
Horse. Man, that is a good book. Every
And it's
issue is-
Lemire too, which is odd.
Every issue is a great story. The art in that is just incredible. Just incredible.
I think one that falls under a lot of people's radar is Unfollow.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying that book too. It's really interesting. Got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Yeah.
And you guys have told me, I think every single person has told me I made a mistake for not hopping on Clean Room. So it must be pretty good.
Okay, so Clean Room came out this week. Have you guys read that?
Yeah,
I have.
So I was kind of starting to feel like maybe it was kind of drifting a little bit. Like we kind of like all the characters had kind of lost their moorings, were kind of adrift, and it wasn't feeling. To me, it wasn't feeling the characters were feeling concrete. Whereas this issue, to me, kind of cemented everything back into place again. You know, Chloe kind of, at least for most of the issue, she kind of finds her. I don't know. She gets her mojo.
Yeah.
You know, kind of in it. You know, suddenly, gets a backbone, and it's kind of like. I love this issue. Like the first 4 or 5 pages are absolutely perfect. I love it when she starts out going, I really wanted to be Lois Lane. I want to have a Lois Lane moment. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is so perfect for a female, person who's trying to be a reporter and that sort of stuff. I mean, that I think that's kind of a, as far as a fictional icon goes, Lois Lane's a pretty heavyweight fictional icon for that kind of stuff. I love those first opening pages and whatnot. I love the whole, Mueller swears and Chloe's like freaking out because she's like, oh my God, you swear. And she's like, say, and she lists off shit, fuck. I can't remember what the other thing she says. And so, and Astrid, of course, instead of saying those, because she's so prim and proper, and she won't admit to the fact that she swore, it's like intercourse and,
intercourse, feces, and thingy.
And thingy, yes. I really enjoyed this issue again because, like I said, to me it was starting to feel kind of weird. Not weird in this is fun, but kind of a weird like I'm not sure anyone knows what's going on anymore in the book. And this kind of felt like it brought it back into. What are you guys feeling about the book?
We got pushed in a certain direction, like you said. I mean, I thought a lot of things were being explained to us, like with the big gun and all that, and. Yeah, it quickly twisted into more about dealing with individual demons and the structure of Astrid Mueller's business. So that's when I think that felt like the shift.
Yeah. Rez isn't here, unfortunately. She would be a descending CDC on Clean Room. Every time I've talked about, she absolutely does not care for it one bit. She doesn't feel like it pulls or hooks or anything. So, yeah.
The art was only a little bit of a letdown, but it's still continuing to be
they changed artists, and the book had a definite look to it with the other artists. I think this artist is fine, but it isn't quite exactly the same, that's for sure. Once you get used to 12 issues of somebody, then have it change it. Sometimes tough. In the comments, let's see. Captain Strange Life is saying that Lady Killer for best comic of the year. At least best female creator, that Julie Jones is one of the best creators. I think she is. I think Julie Jones is. I think now people are going to start really seeing her because, of course, now she's exclusive to DC. She's going to be doing more work with them. I think next week, Brandon? Is it next week or the end of the month? End of the month, the Supergirl miniseries comes out that she's doing the artwork for. Certainly going to get it because
the online one that I've been reading, or the
no. This is
another one.
And
cool.
That's going to be. I'm super excited about that because I think Julie Jones is awesome. I'm still kicking myself for having spent my money wrong at the last cons I was at and having not bought some of her original Lady Killer work then, because I think it's going to get a lot more expensive soon.
Yeah.
Because I think she's just somebody that people are going to find out and she's going to like explode. Because I think she. Yeah, go ahead.
Is she doing the art for the second series? Is it the same art?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, oh, because in the cover, I think it's a different artist on the cover of the last issue I seen. What issue was it? Issue 2, I think.
Of Lady Killer?
Yeah, I think that it said Allred.
Well, Allred does the colors on some of the stuff. She did I can't remember Allred's first name. Shoot, all I can think of is Mike's name. I can't think of Laura Allred. Yeah. Laura Allred. She did the colors on the first run. I don't think she does the colors on the second run though. And there may be variant covers out there for Lady Killer. Is there?
That could also been what I seen too.
Yeah,
the art looks kind of different. But it could have been the coloring that looked different.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Lady Killer would have been a choice for last year for me. I think the first series I enjoyed more than the second one so far.
I haven't read the second one, but the first one was real good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I'll have to pick it up when the trade comes out.
Yeah, I'm liking both. I think I like the first one maybe better too. This one's a little different. Sometimes I wonder how much that is the fact that she's doing it all herself now instead of having some direction from Jimmy Rich helping with the writing, but still definitely a great book. Yes.
House of Penance.
Oh, excellent book that all landed inside of 2016. Definitely. That's a great book. I absolutely love that book. And they just announced it will be coming out in a trade. So those of you who missed it, I think it comes out in January.
What is it called?
House of Penance.
House of Penance.
Yeah, it's got some great Bertram art in it. Bertram is a definite kind of a unique. He's got his own look, kind of a thing. So it definitely has its own look to it. So for sure. Jockio is saying that G.I. Joe Devastation One Shot, no joke, came out in January, February. Top book for him. Also Black Panther, Mighty Thor, as a lot of you guys keep talking about. International Iron Man.
I read some of those G.I. Joes and Transformers, and I'm surprised some of them are like a lot better than I thought they'd be. I thought they'd just be like the cartoon, but
sure.
They're different.
It's cool. It's cool when they take that stuff and then actually, like the Flintstones, where they take it and they make it into something more than just being kind of a mock-up of the TV show for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Jocko also mentions Island and Heavy Metal. Both are solid. If you're looking for anthology type books, Island was certainly good while I was still getting it. I haven't checked out Heavy Metal in a very long time. So.
Well, I like that they're doing comics now. The Paybacks came back out for at least 4 more on that, so I was very happy.
Hey, Mike, do you know if do you know how it's what's Paybacks with now? Heavy Metal?
Yeah, they did 4 more after they did 4 with Dark Horse. So there will be another trade coming out shortly with the Paybacks.
So since they were Heavy Metal now, can they can Heavy Metal reprint the Dark Horse issues, or how does that work?
I believe, I don't know, they left in good terms with Dark Horse, and it was kind of a blessing. They wanted them to continue on. The sales are not there, so I don't know that they would.
Well, I figure what will happen is contractually wise, as long as the first playback trade is in circulation and continues to be in circulation, Dark Horse will have the rights to that for that purposes. If that ever goes out of circulation, more than likely those guys get full rights back to do then with that original material, whatever they choose to, is typically, as my understanding, how some of those contracts work as far as that goes. So I don't know, Jay, if you're asking for, are they going to put all of it together in one big book, for instance? I would be shocked if that would ever happen, because
I don't think that would. That's kind of what I was getting at that, and does Heavy Metal do trades? I'm reading that one digitally.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they will, is my guess.
Yeah, because I don't know what all that Heavy Metal's putting out comic book wise.
I think it's probably less than maybe 6.
Yeah.
I can't think about some of the other ones.
So I'm curious to
I
see
know,
how successful that is or isn't going to be for them.
I know at one
Yeah,
point they were
that's a good series. That's a good series. I'm reading it digitally, but I also want a physical copy if they make a trade.
Yeah.
What are you going to say
I
about
know.
Brandon?
I said I know at one point they're doing another volume of that series, Hoax Hunters, that used to be at Image,
Oh,
Oh, yes.
which I used to like, but I never picked up the heavy metal stuff.
oh, so they're moving that. That's interesting. That I wonder how they're doing. I mean, because I can see like with the Dark Horse comics, because Dark Horse comics is creator owned in some sense, but still it's closer to the big two in that their contracts. The Dark Horse is fronting a lot of the money, and so therefore they want a recoup of quite a bit of the money. Whereas I know, like with Image, my understanding of their contracts are the creators are really it's on their shoulders. For it to X amount of the beginning of money goes to Image, and then they're making money after that. That's why their money's in the trades and that sort of thing. So it's interesting that there's some of these guys who, not in the case of Dark Horse, but like in the case with the Hoax Hunters, which was an Image book, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Taking it to yet another, smaller press kind of a place. I don't know. That's interesting. I wonder why.
I forget the reasoning.
Could it be similar to a Saucer Country situation where it wasn't selling well at Image and they weren't performing on a level they would like, and so they're going somewhere smaller?
Well, Image will let you do as much as you want to do as long as you're willing to put yourself into debt. At some point, they start to say, we're not going to do, deluxe hardcovers for you anymore because you're so far backwards on the book. Ethan, one of my kids, he gets the Mouse Templar books, and he started out getting them in the big fancy hardbacks. Well, they put the first 3 out in big fancy hardbacks, but the creators are so backwards on that book that they won't let them produce yet the final hardback. So Ethan's not going to get the final part of the story until it comes out on hardback, because you don't want to, you know how it is. You get your, got your sexy bookshelf there. You got these great hardbacks, and then you got one that's out of place. He doesn't want, you don't want that. So it's, I don't, and every con we go to, we talk to Glass, the writer, and he's like, well, not this year. If you guys keep complaining, maybe they'll give it to us. But I mean, he admitted to the fact that they are underwater with that book. So I don't know how you justify a hardcover.
Yeah. So that the final decision comes down to Image, like as far as deciding what books get a hardcover.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. How much are they willing to front? How much are they're there to help you make some good business decisions. I mean, they ultimately let you make the decision, but they say, hey, look, this is where you're at. And if they're fronting you money, clearly they're more in charge of those decisions, is what it sounds to me like with this book with the Mouse Templar, because they're fronting as much money as they are. They're going, no, we're not going to do that. At this point, it doesn't make sense.
So like the more sales the books get, the more the creators, the more juice they have.
Yes. Oh yeah. And it's one of those kind of things. It's crappy. And I know some people get really angry about it and whatnot, that the creators out there saying, hey, look, you got to buy the singles. If you don't buy the singles, it never makes it to trade. It doesn't make it past the first trade. I don't know. I believe it. I believe it, that if not enough of us are buying singles, and I'm not judging anybody who doesn't buy in singles. I know sometimes people think that's the case, that I'm, looking down my nose. I'm looking down my nose at you who get my books canceled because you won't buy them in singles, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the reality is they make more money on the trades, the creators do, because they've made it that far. They've made it that far to get the trade for the trade long term.
Yeah, you have to have the singles. Yeah, the singles have to sell first to.
Right. Something's got to be putting money in their pocket initially for them to survive long enough to get the kickback from the lot thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's quit talking contract stuff, since I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Along those lines, I was really happy to see Hellboy in the BPRD, 1952s, the little 2, 3, 4 issues that we would get to tell a story, and we get it every couple months. I liked seeing that this year.
Yeah, welcome aboard, because they do a lot of that, and I enjoy it. I enjoy getting, okay, the creators had time to crank out X number of issues. We get this little story arc, then it may be 2 or 3 months, and then bang, we'll get another little something somewhere. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So, speaking of that kind of the gaps we get in stories, have you guys noticed in your independent books that the announced gaps between like arcs are getting bigger and bigger? That it started out, it was like, okay, we're taking a month off to get back on track with the book or whatever. Now we're coming, the book ended in October, we'll see you in February, or we'll see you in March, or that sort of thing. Does it feel like it's getting longer?
Yeah, I mean, some of those are obviously explained. Like, I think we're going to start seeing Black Magic again here down the road, but obviously there's a reason behind that.
Right.
But I also think if you're and I'm not, again, if you know my pet peeves, indie fanboyism is one of them, but I'm going to say you're getting a more quality product than something that's getting cranked out because it has to be cranked out.
Right.
I mean, so it sucks, but at the same time, I some of those I can wait on. But if you're giving me like 6 months to a year, I might even forget I was reading it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's that with Copperhead. It took forever to come out, and I just totally forgot all about it.
I don't think we're ever going to see Copperhead again.
And speaking of Black Magic, they announced it's going to be pushed back even more now to June.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rucka said that on Twitter.
I hadn't seen that. I knew April. I hadn't seen that.
Now it's June.
Okay, well, I'm okay with that. It ended in an okay place. I feel like that when it starts back up again, I maybe have to go back and touch back with a couple issues. Oh no, I have to reread a good comic. Damn it!
How many issues were out?
5. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
5 or 6 at most. I think it's 5. So, I'm not complaining. I'm just asking if it was gotten longer, because it seems to me like suddenly it's gotten a lot longer. Hadrian's Wall, which came out this week, loving that book a lot. The Black Matter, it says, hey, we're taking a 3-month break between issue, what was this, 5? 4? Between issue 4 and issue 5, there's going to be a big break. And for me, if it's only going to be like 8 issues, to me that seems like that's a big break midstream. But I don't have a problem if it's in between arcs or whatever. And it's the inconsistent. If it gets inconsistent, that's what frustrates me. But when I know, like I said, at the end of the book, it says, oh, Black Science is coming back in 3 months. Okay, that's a bummer because I love the book, but I want quality book over one of the downsides to both of the big two. They're not, somebody's not, whoever's at fault, writer, penciler, whoever, somewhere along the way it breaks down, and at the very end they end up with 6 people on a book. Everybody's doing a random page here and there to try and keep the book together. That loses some of the storytelling. So, that can be a problem. So
I did have this week Old Man Logan. There was 2 issues of filler, so it was a vampire story, which would have been fine around October, but right now, it's 2 issues. They're going to get caught up, and then we're going to go into the final arc with Lemire and Sorrentino.
Mm-hmm.
So was it a different artist or a different writer?
Different artist. No, it's still Lemire and Andrea is the who they have. So
that cover's awesome, though. I will say.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Sorrentino cover. I mean, to keep you hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think
what is it, like a wolfman?
Yeah, he's a vampire wolfman. Yeah.
But I do think, if it gets to a point where, because there's still some comics like Frankenstein Alive and stuff like it. There's ones that are way. And you kind of expect it. They're like, okay, every 5-6 years I'll get another issue of this.
Right.
But if it's getting to a point, that's not a joke, by the way.
No, it's not.
That's a fair estimate. But if it's getting to a point where it's like a year and a half or like a year, I don't know. Like that might be unless the book is just amazing. Like Black Magic, yeah, it's an amazing comic. But if it's something I'm kind of on the fence on, that might be why I drop it over it
Right.
actually, you know.
Right. Well, and the other reality is we kind of look at it and at least for me looking at it and hearing, the creators talk about the books and whatnot. Clearly writers, I have the ability to work on more than one project. They can be working on a project that is a monthly book for a corporation, and get some revenue that way while they wait for the long-term revenue to come in for their independent work. The artist, with the exception of a very few monsters out there, whatever they're working on, that's it. There's nothing else. So if they're working on a thing that's not bringing in the money right now, at some point they may have to stop and go do something else that's going to pay some bills for a while and stuff. I mean, for those of us who are reading Injection, and I know some of you guys dropped Injection along the way, I'm still reading. I'm really looking forward to it coming back. It was reaching a point where they were at a good breaking point for them, and Declan Shelby needed to go and do some corporate work for a little bit to fatten up the coffers so he could go back to doing the stuff he really likes to do. But the reality is that these aren't huge money makers, and they need to do something else along the way to, pay their bills like everybody else does. So I get that too, taking the breaks to go and do X number of issues someplace else. In the case of Black Magic, we keep talking about, the creators made the choice to go do what they considered a dream job. Nicholas Scott and Greg Rucka had been talking for 10 or 15 years about wanting to do a Wonder Woman book together. So clearly when the opportunity landed in their laps, it's like, we're going to take the risk and put this other thing we really love on a back burner so we can go do a job we have been talking about for forever. And I can't, who can blame them for doing that? I mean, love the book or not love the book, why wouldn't you go off to do dream job if you could do it? So, yeah. Yeah, but it seems to me like here lately, there's been a lot bigger gaps between stuffs. When it's in between arcs, it's a lot better than when it's in the middle of something, but we all know things happen. Nobody's, life is perfect that they can keep on track of something that, with those kinds of responsibilities. So
not only that, but we're getting a lot of good comics right now. Like if this was kind of a drought time where there was few and far between good comics, I think the breaks would hit a lot harder.
Yeah. I just think they need to organize themselves better so they don't all come out at the same time and then all take a break at the same damn time. That's what's starting to happen to me with Image is all my favorite books they're all taking the same breaks and then they're all coming back at the same time. So my pull goes really big and really small. And I think that's what's going to happen to Brandon as he tries to stick to his 10 books a week thing. You're gonna get caught somewhere as all those books all stop and then crop up at the same time.
Probably.
Or in my case, I mistakenly start ordering books because my pull has dropped. So I start ordering more books, forgetting that I've got 3 or 4 books that are, on a 3-month delay. And then all of a sudden they pop back up and I'm like, wait a second, how did I just add an extra $60 to my pull for the month? Because suddenly these books suddenly reappear. So
yeah, I've been picking up a lot of number ones too. So it's probably, I don't think it's going to be staying too long, but I hope it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of off topic, but I've been hearing, because I've been bobbing and weaving with social media for a while now, but there's some Birds of Prey news out there that I have no idea what it's about, but people are saying that like something's going on with them coming up. Is that true?
I don't know.
What?
Go ahead, Fred.
Supposedly the Harley Quinn spin-off movie.
Oh.
What? Being so popular, the next movie.
Oh, really? Because I know they're in works to do movie-wise. They're in works to do Gotham City Sirens.
Wow.
Mind you, I don't think it's going to be Gotham City Sirens, the comic book, as much because, of course, Harley Quinn's going to be I would think is going to be spearheading it because, of course, they have what's her name is still going to be playing the role. The guy who directed Suicide Squad is going to do it. So your mileage is there because I know there's plenty of people who absolutely hated the way that movie was designed. So take that what it is. I hear that potentially that means Deadshot's also getting a spin-off movie of his own. I think that's interesting, but I don't see the appeal to that. For me, Deadshot's great in a group, him playing off of other people, but in his own lone movie, the character has depth, but not that kind of depth for me personally. So I don't know. I say that, but of course, if they put it out, I'm going to be sitting there watching it. So, who am I kidding? But I just offhand. As far as the Birds of Prey, I haven't heard anything specifically about that. I know there's some rumblings because I think at the end of this issue that's out right now, I haven't read it yet, that came out this week, there's a new Oracle, and I don't know exactly what that is. I know there were some people that were kind of pissed about that.
Okay. Okay.
Like it's a fanboy or something, or I don't know. But I haven't heard.
So they haven't learned their lesson that when a big fan of a superhero becomes a part of the team, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I'm making a reference for a very specific Robin.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't know. I haven't heard a specific around that. But,
so they haven't said like Catwoman, Poison Ivy, or anything like that. It's just been kind of, this might happen down the road.
Oh, as far as adding more, no.
Okay.
No.
Another comic that came to mind while I was thinking, Wicked and Divine. That's another one that people should be reading. That was great this year. Paper Girls, another one.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, not that anybody who's not into comics is probably watching this show at all, but I think that's a fair not comparison, but in the vein of if you watch the Netflix show Stranger Things, this has some elements of that. A group of kids that are on a crazy ass adventure where nothing really makes a whole lot of sense, but the kids do a really good job of kind of rolling with it and whatnot. Speaking of Paper Girls, I about had a heart attack, and this is kind of a weird thing about Discount Comic Book Service. I'll occasionally get a email from them telling me that something has been canceled, and and I'm getting reimbursed my money, and they're going to reissue, or they'll explain what's going on. Well, I get this email, and it's telling me that Paper Girls issue number 8 is sold out.
When you're ordering it in advance?
And I'm freaking right, exactly. I'm freaking out. I'm like, wait a second. How the hell can you tell me it's being sold out? And so I'm like looking up. I'm like, they're like, and I'm like, I sent them in an email going, what do you mean this is sold out? It can't be sold out. I ordered it way in advance. You telling me you got this power to order thousands of comic books at a time, and you don't have more leverage over the mom and pop store down at the corner that maybe only gets one? I should get mine first. I'm just like, oh. Issue 8 came out in August.
Yeah.
Basically,
I was about to say.
Right. It's the cover.
They just wanted you to know.
It's the cover. It's the cover of the chain smoking girl, looking at herself in the mirror, and she looks dead. That's the issue. I'm like, wait a second, this already came out. Why are you telling me you can't order it anymore? But and I've never gotten an email from them that way. So, but I was freaking out because I'm thinking, oh my God, if they don't have copies, I live in the middle of nowhere. Where the hell am I going to get a copy of that at? And I don't want to miss a single issue. It's like, oh my God.
They were just bragging to you. They're like, by the way, this sold out a few months ago. So
You already own it, but.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sitting at work on the side, typing into my phone, go, what do you mean it's sold out?
Hey, do you know who does the coloring on that? I like the coloring on it. It really pops.
Lou Rich, I think, right? Isn't it Lou Rich? Lou Rich that does that?
At least on some of the issues. I don't know about all of them, but
I think he's still the colorist as of now. Yeah. He seems to color a few independent books for a while, then goes off and does some, and then goes off to do something different. He doesn't stay with the book. But as of the last trades worth to come out, he was the colorist on the book. Yeah, and he was the original colorist on Deadly Class too. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book it reminds me of E.T. for some reason, like with the bikes and aliens.
Oh yeah, it has that kind of Spielberg kind of a feel to it, right? I think we kind of talked about that when it first started coming out, that it had that kind of a
Goonies and
that kind of movie kind of feel to it. But with some really good poignant points in it, though. I mean, as much as it has that kind of, I think, kind of lighter movie-esqueness to it, that it has these moments, like her finding out that she's dead in the future, the one character, and the whole conversation between the Aarons. I still can't get over the idea of what the hell I would have felt like if I was 13 looking at 27-year-old of myself. I just, oh my God, well, and having to deal with that would just be I think I'd be
growing out some beard. Nah.
No, not even close.
I remember reading that and thinking, "Oh, I know what I'd say to myself," and then I realized I wouldn't listen to a word of it.
Oh,
There's no way. I'd be
I
like,
know.
"All right, you don't want to do this. You need to stop doing that, and your life will be way better." And I'd be like, "All right, cool." And then I just go around and keep going.
yeah.
That's growing up, everything you hear, they're not lying to you, but you kind of gotta experience it yourself.
Yeah, it does not compute. That's just it. It just doesn't. So yeah.
I think you make a good point though, because it's taking those kind of familiar concepts and then kind of expanding on them with kind of thought-provoking things.
Right.
Like that idea of finding out you died, and she doesn't kind of tell anyone really at first, like her thoughts on like it was more realistic in that sense.
Right.
Where I think other comic books would be like, she needs to express.
Right.
Like if you found out you were going to be dead in 5 years, I don't think you could immediately emote like what you would think of that. You'd be like, okay, I really need to process this and figure out.
Right. Right.
I liked that element to it because it felt more
a
realistic.
terrible accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and in some ways, I really kind of feel like it's the perfect response for a teenager, right? Because as a teenager, you're kind of indestructible. You just don't, I mean, for me, if I'm told now at the age I am now, I've got 5 years, I'm going to be dead, I have a completely different, oh my God, this is what I need to take care of kind of stuff. Whereas if I was 13 and I'm told by 18, I'm going to be dead, then it's a whole different, I don't know, it's just a whole different kind of a thing. I just loved her rationale. I'm going to go do that. I mean, I'm going to step in the way of danger because I know I don't die here. I mean, just this whole kind of indestructibleness that gave her was just kind of, I don't know, kind of brilliant. So,
yeah. So in between these 5 years, I beat the odds, right? At anything.
Sure. Well, throws herself in front of a giant, what was that? It was a mite, right? It was a lice.
Tardigrade.
No, that was the other giant things. The thing that was rubbing through the trash can was like a lice, wasn't it? Like lice?
Yeah.
Yeah, a giant lice, which is gross in and of itself. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of good comics out there. That's what gets me is that to me to build these are the best. There's some super standouts, I think, but there are a lot of good comics. A lot of good comics came out.
Yeah. That's where I'm having trouble. I'm trying to think if I'm even going to do a list this year because there's so many good ones. I always feel like I leave stuff out, and I feel like this year especially I would.
Yeah.
And I mean the things that are standing up in the big two are really like Superman.
Oh,
I think for all of us has been phenomenal. And if you told me a year ago, I'd say Superman's one of the best comics DC's putting out, I'd be blown away.
Yeah.
Superman was pretty good.
Yeah. A year ago you told me I'd be excited when that hits my poll, that I'm excited that it comes out twice a month. Come on, no way, not ever. Of course, a year ago I was saying there's no way in hell I'm picking up these twice a month DC books. It wasn't going to happen. I mean, there's probably 15 videos out there of me going, there's no way I'm picking these up. These books are going to be a disaster. They're all going to fall apart. They're going to. And I mean, I think some of those double ship books, there's some chinks starting to show up. I think there's a little more treading water. I think we're wasting our 40 pages a month that we have of comic books, I think in some cases, but I think there's a lot of strong stuff too. There's a lot of really fun books. I'm picking up a lot more books that I just think are fun superhero books that I'm just getting a real kick out of. So shocked. I'm reading a book called Superwoman and I love it.
It's good.
Is that a new Superwoman, a new character, or had she been around before?
They're reusing the name. And the character is from the New 52, right? She's not before the New 52, is she? Does anybody here know? None of us know Superman well enough to really probably.
I was gonna say I don't know that, but I do know that she's been around,
right? In the New 52 universe, she was like Superman, Clark Kent's like best friend. They were buddies. I mean, she knew who he was in both things. Kind of.
But she wasn't Superwoman then. Superwoman.
No, she had no powers.
Crime Syndicate.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so there's the Superwoman's like kind of new then.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's something I might check out. It sounds interesting. I'll probably get them digitally.
Yeah. it's weird. I dipped into Superman, like Action Comics, a little bit during the New 52 when she was around. Yeah, it's weird because, and I watched a little bit of the Roundtable when I was overseas. It was fun to watch with people that didn't know English. But I was watching your rant on Batman, and I had not read any of those yet, and I was it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. Can't be that bad. I'm like, oh, he was really nice. Like, he was really nice to this comic book, because it was just like, holy shit. Because he's really, and I've said this since the get-go, he has been, since this has started, kind of a side character in his own story for most of it. And what has kind of been paramount, or like the main story, has been shit. And then you're taking characters that could maybe reinvigorate it and putting them in another direction that you're like, why are you doing that?
Right.
And it's just making me wonder if there's this big plan at the end of it where it's going to be like, oh, we got you and your money, but here's the good comic that's coming out. Don't worry.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's an alternative universe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just because, you make the comment that, of course, he's not the main character in his own book. I mean, there was some criticism when Wonder Woman came out in the New 52 that was the case, that they were telling the story around her, that she was this kind of object moving through the book, and the story was really what's her face and Zeke the baby and the other pantheon around her. And I argue that to some degree, but I can see where you might say that that's how you think it works. Okay, but at least it was still a story that was structurally moving forward, and not to go on a Batman rant every freaking week.
Every 2 weeks.
But this one is just like, I didn't lie. I didn't mind last issue though. Go ahead.
And the worst part is, like, he puts in little things to like make you almost excited for his book, like the issue where Alfred has to dress up as Batman to distract Gotham, or like the hints at like Kite Man and all the old school villains, and the like Killing Joke scene with Catwoman. Like, those were all scenes I was like, oh, maybe he's getting his act together, and then like he completely destroys my hopes in the next issue.
Well, I don't know but that's just it. The thing is that we all know the guy is a smart writer. I mean, we're ranting and raving about The Vision probably being one of the best books, right? And at least me and Mike are ranting about Sheriff of Babylon.
It was good.
And so, high expectation for him doing Batman. Okay, 2 issues in, I've tampered that way. Actually, 1 issue in, I've tampered that way back. Let's just get a good Batman story. And this is not even, I don't know.
You guys are always like, oh, Vision's super good. Like, I enjoyed Sheriff of Babylon. I wasn't a huge fan of Vision, and I wasn't a huge fan of Omega Men. So, like, I'm already kind of hit or miss with Tom King.
Wow.
So, like, his Batman.
You and I have different opinions. Just go ahead.
Well, that's okay. That's cool. Yeah. But, so the fact you're picking it up at all is brave. When it's a twice-a-month book.
Now, you guys ever have like a character where sometimes the story isn't that good, but it's just your character that you follow, so you just keep buying it anyway?
Yeah,
Batman.
Yeah, Daredevil was a little bit shaky, but
I dropped Daredevil. I was so bummed. That could have been an awesome run. But I think what it is, and I know I'm going to get heat for this, but oh well. I think, because, and Fred's not the only person that has said this. There's like, oh, there's these little moments where they're referencing these things from the past. It's like, there's your problem with Batman right there. There's your problem. We have to hold on to these things instead of taking the character in a new direction or going forward. Everyone's like, no, it's got to be like the Killing Joke, or it's got to be like the Dark Knight Returns. It's like, as long as you're stuck in that and they have to keep playing to that for you, it's going to be a stagnant book at best.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, he's been around 70, 80 years. You gotta try different things.
Well, I'm okay with, and I'm not sure exactly what Fred was saying, but I'm okay with them tapping into that stuff and doing something different with it. It doesn't have to stay that story, but I'm okay with them doing them. That's, continuity can be fun, but I'm also for, let's not worry about it and do whatever we want to do. I mean, I'm either way. That's not the issue for me, one way or the other, about this book. It's not because they reference that stuff or don't reference it. There's just some structurally unsound things.
I think you're missing my point.
Okay.
Because if you're getting my point, then you won't be mad at all when we're hearing about his first year as Batman again in the next coming up thing.
Oh,
It's my problem is they are keep recycling, and they're not taking Batman in any new directions. I thought they were going to do that with this Gotham story because I was like, okay, this is kind of different. We're gonna have a different kind of Superman-esque character.
Mhm.
And then it started having like Golden Age references. I was okay with that, but then I realized it went nowhere and nothing with it. And I realized then it's going to get the fans to be like, oh no, go back to this. And it's like, I'm sick of going back to that. I've read that already numerous times.
Okay, totally agree with you on that for sure.
What about like you guys ever like do you ever watch South Park? How every episode is based on like current things that are going on in the country.
Yeah,
I like when they do that in shows because that way you always have new material. Like Zootopia with everything going on, they show it on the cartoon.
Yeah,
like kind of touch on current things and add it to your story.
The problem with that is people don't like that in comic books.
I mean,
maybe not that exact thing, but like other things that are going on.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us at least that are here on the panel tonight, we're all on Twitter, and we see Twitter just kind of freak out anytime. My comic books shouldn't be politically oriented, which of course anybody who has any long-term history of comic books, you look back historically at comic books, tons of political political stuff goes on in superhero comics. It's ridiculous to say that it shouldn't be in it. So yeah, so if you put current affairs, if we throw the current political United States climate into comic books, regardless of which side of that you land on, whatever, I'm not here to discuss that. Wherever you land at is going to just make people completely lose their shit.
I think there will be more frequent days where I go on Twitter and I'm just like, nope, and just leave Twitter and say I'm done with Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I forgot, maybe it was Travis, maybe it was someone else, but I was talking about, back in the day when you just had the shop and that was it. If they would put stuff like that in comic books, it would have been a short discussion. Like, oh, can you believe they're dead? And that would have been it. And now that really has influence over the industry. That has, people making all these like change.org things and all that when any of that comes up. So I think you're going to see more quote unquote palatable comics and corporate comics that aren't going to offend anybody. They're going to try and do that because whether you like it or not, and I'm saying this generally, and people are going to interpret it the wrong way. You are the problem. You get offended at things, and you get offended when other people get offended at things. It's like, but
it makes people scared to write different stories.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime there's a controversy that comes up, if I'm on one side of it, I'm offended. If I'm on the other side, I'm not offended and hate that you're offended. And you're seeing more of that more and more. And it's like, who cares? Just don't buy it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like how South Park does that. Like even they poked fun of like that movie. What's the name of that movie? Was it Ghost Witch Project back when it was popular? Like
Blair
how they
Witch?
talk about whatever. Yeah, there you go, Blair Witch. Like stuff like that, where it's like it doesn't have to be political, but like even other things like a game or movie that's popular at the time.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, if you want Batman to be playing like
I don't want
Fallout.
that. I don't want that because I want my comics to drive pop culture, not pop culture drive my comics. That's what I want. I want my comic books generating the pet rock. I don't want the pet rock to create my comic book. I guess is for me anyway. So.
Which is harder to do because nowadays pop culture is running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and these guys are trying to crank out a book every other week. And so
they're already behind it. They're already behind it. I mean, Ms. Marvel, the latest issue of Ms. Marvel is a prime example of that. I don't know if you've gotten to reading yours, CDC. I won't be spoiling anything by talking about this. It's about getting out the vote, and it lands a month and a half after clearly an election that happened that would be emotionally catastrophic to that character and what she represents, kind of a thing. So that issue, I would have loved to have had a conversation about the time when it came out because it felt, for me personally, incredibly hollow coming out after the election. It was very, So
I do remember that. I remember there being like a bit of a buzz about that issue, like rumors about that issue around the time of the election. But like, I wasn't sure if it had come out or not. But like, I just heard of that plot line and stuff, or at least that reference.
Yeah, it missed the, basically, it's a local politics. It was local politics, the regular politicians and
which is just, and not to get on my soapbox, but is more important in a lot of ways than the national stuff. People don't pay attention to it.
Right, and a character from the past, a bad guy from the past is running as one of the politicians, and he's winning, and they have to basically get out the vote to get somebody else hired and whatever.
Ouch.
It's very Pollyanny in that they managed to get the vote out in like a day and elect a third party candidate, and everything's yay, and it's just and that mixed with the reality of anybody who's not surprised, I tend to lean on the liberal side of things. So the way the United States presidential election landed was a bit traumatic. Just made that feel all the more, I guess. So I appreciate it for being what it was, but for me to digest it when I had to digest it, it didn't land well. So
it went more from like what the book wanted it to be towards more like the conversations they were having in Tokyo Ghost about like the president in that world. Conversations and all the guards and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
I can't wait for my I pre-ordered it already. I'm waiting for the hardcover to get here. I think it's
Tokyo Ghost. Nice.
Yeah, I think it's like 5 more months still.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it comes out in April.
That'll be a nice book though.
Do you think though, because there is this, and I know you don't want to get too deep, but there is this concept that comic books are more to the left and creators are more to the left. Do you think you would feel the same way about them being quote unquote political if they were more to the right and the industry was more right wing? Because there are elements of that people don't acknowledge that are very cutthroat, very business, involvement, that are very right wing in comics. If they were more right wing, do you think you'd be on the other side of that and be like, oh, I wish they would cut this out? I just want my comics to be comics.
No, I'll do what I do. I'll do what I do now. Those books that truly do not appeal to my palate, I don't.
Hold on. Before you say this, listen to this, everyone, and apply it. Go ahead.
I just don't buy them. I don't buy them. if me and your political and ideological views of the world are at such strains that I can't sit here over a screen and have a conversation with you, we're not going to. I don't sub you. We don't have those conversations. And there's two sides to that. I mean, it's bad for me if I create a bubble to where the only thing that I think exists is my view of the world, and I don't do that. I have no problem with whatever kind of comic books being out there and whatnot. I have to admit, I will get on a bandwagon if you take a character who is fundamentally based on certain principles and you try to make him something else for a long term. I get there's a story here or there or whatever. I didn't lose my shit over Captain America being made a Nazi for an issue because I knew probably what that was going to look like. If it was going to be a long-term thing, I think I would be interested in the story to see how you justify what he'd done in the past. I mean, I'd be more curious about that. You better do it right, kind of a thing. But I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. If it offends me, I don't buy it. But I don't think that means I can't still have an opinion about it. If it's something I really think flies in the face of what I don't agree with, whatever, I'm going to say I agree with that. But I'm not necessarily saying it should not exist, to that degree. But so yeah, I mean, no. If comic, I don't know if comic books probably lean more left than they do right currently. Yeah, I think more art in general leans towards free thought than it does toward. And then this is ideologically, structured. This is the box we're going to be in. I don't know. I just wouldn't get the stuff. I just wouldn't get it. I mean, to me, it's easy. It's easy. If I don't like it, if I go, F it, Thor shouldn't have boobs, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Yeah. But I'd have no problem saying I'm not buying it because of that. But I don't continue to go on about how it's a horrible comic because it's not that. Because I don't know. Because I'm not reading it.
Nor would I, and there are some comic books that I have fundamental disagreements with the way they go and all that. nor do I give people shit for getting it. That's the biggest thing for me.
Exactly.
Is not okay. So you don't like that Thor's a female now. Don't, so when someone tweets out a picture of it, put your manifesto and 19 tweets under it, and like,
right.
Just don't pick it up and be cool with other people picking it up
and burn that bill down. Yeah.
Actually, Thor intrigues me a lot more now as a girl. It makes me want to pick it up more than when he was a guy.
I will continue to say this. Look up the numbers of what we can look at, because of course there's hidden sales that we can't see. Jason Aaron and an artist, what was Ebrick? How do you say his name? The guy who was doing Ribic doing the whole original Thor run and whatnot. Great run, solid run and whatnot. Look at the sales numbers of that book, and then look at the sales numbers of Jason Aaron and whoever was Dodderman doing the current Thor, not Odin's son, but the current Thor. The sales numbers prove which is the better book, which is the more popular book. Better, that's subjective, I guess, but which is the more popular book.
Yeah, that seems a lot more interesting.
This current Thor, more people are excited about putting money behind it than Odin's son. And it's the same writer. It's not like they had shit creators on the first run of the book, and then they got rock stars to do the second run of the book, which clearly would make everybody go and do it. It's the same guy telling a story. He's just telling the rest of the story he wants to tell and whatnot. The numbers are there.
And this is going to drive some people nuts. But if you took just a normal, because they've done this in the past, people don't realize this. They did exactly what they're doing with Thor now with a male character in the 90s. They did. There was a human male that became Thor. People forget, and he became Thor for a while there. And now they're doing it with a female character.
No.
Yes. Eric, whatever his name was.
Thunderstrike, was it?
Thunderstrike, thank you. Yeah. Same concept. I know. Let me tell you, people were furious back then, but it's making the character more human, more relatable. That's what people don't understand. That why it's such a better comic book. Well, it has nothing to do with gender. It has more to do with like, okay, I can see where this character's coming from because she has cancer too and all of that.
Well, they're exploring something different, like you said before. They're not hanging on to continuity. They're exploring something different.
Yeah,
and they're going about it in an interesting way, from what it sounds like, in that she is out of place as much as some of the audience wants to make her out of place, and she has to show up in Asgard and have everybody kind of look down their nose at her because she's not Thor, right? I mean, Odin doesn't particularly care for the character, right? I mean,
no,
right. So all the elements that are there. I mean, I guess if you're one of those people that's immediately offended by anything that someone who is pro-feminist can point out and go, yeah, I like that, and that immediately offends you, I guess the book's not for you. But I feel no loss for you not being part of the conversation, I guess, if that's the case, But I know people who are horribly offended by the fact that, like, issue 1 or 2 into the current Thor run, and she gets into the fight with Absorbing Man, and there's some, basically straight off the forums trolling going on, the lines that are delivered in that, and her rebut to that, and people were just completely hurt by that. And it's like, seriously, you're that? I mean,
did you read Mockingbird? But what I like about it is it takes you back to a time when I was like a teenager where I had to exude confidence in what I was doing with myself, and then having those moments where I'm like, oh, I'm way in over my head, but I can't put it out there. Like, that's a human thing, regardless of gender. You get to that point in life where it's like that, and that's what they're doing with this character. You couldn't do that with Odin's son. Like, and if you're reading this unworthy Thor, he doesn't know what to do because he's so used to being that confident guy throughout, and now he's dealing with being vulnerable. It's such a good comic, and I hate the fact that people are just so base level hating it.
Like, he even sets up the whole, like, Thor super confident thing, like, even when it was still Odinson during, like, the God Butcher, God Bomb arc, when you see young Thor and he's always confident, always brash, they bring it back kind of in a unworthy Thor, like, showing even without Mjolnir, he's like, I'm still a demigod, I can still take on, like, entire army by myself. And in the actual Thor book, you forget that she's like, I even forget she's female. Like reading the book, I'm just like, this is a cool Thor story. And then when she changes back to Jane Foster, I'm like, and then there's this extra pathos put on top of it with the cancer and her living the double life. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is just extra to that already amazing Thor story. And he's doing new things with Thor that we haven't seen before, like different powers of the hammer, what the hammer really is, just playing with it all around.
And her using ingenuity instead of brute force. I'm loving that element where it's not her just smashing shit. She's outsmarting stuff. And yet people are getting mad that it's a female. It's like, come on, man.
I think the current climate, the social media climate, makes it really hard because we can give such a quick, immediate response. I mean, my God, I log into Twitter on Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, and I'm already seeing responses to the books that came out that day. Kind of a thing that people can get in an uproar so quickly because you can feed off of so many other people about whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah,
you don't get 3 or 4 months of reading something to then go, this is good or this is bad. You already got a this is good or this is a bad instantaneously, and it's judged, and it seems to live past whatever that immediate judgment is on something. And I think that goes both ways. I'm not saying that just as the dude bros that are getting bent out of shape over some books that are pushing closer to being the quote unquote feminist agenda or whatever. It goes the other way too. The left get immediately offended by something before they Kirby would be rolling over in his grave to find out that Captain America is a Nazi, and just getting a little carried away with the immediate response without giving time for something to come out and see where the story's going to be at before you then go, this is bullshit or whatever, or this is I don't know. The immediate response is fine, but it shouldn't be the
be all end all.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting because I think we all have done that since day one with things. We've had that base reaction, and sometimes that's all you get out of it, and you forget that later you're probably unpacking what you've thought of something. Like I've noticed, thankfully, people have been kind of spoiler free on Rogue One because I haven't been able to get tickets yet. Yep. But like I'm noticing people are just like, I thought it was all right. I thought it sucked. I thought it was great, and there's not like, oh, I liked the nuance in this aspect of the story. I like the war themes and stuff. Right, there's, you can only do so much of that, especially on like a format like Twitter. But when it comes to comic books, I think it's so much easier to go to those baser things like offense, because you can easily do that in a short amount of characters. You can be like, I can't believe they're going against this, long tradition, or I can't believe they're changing this, and that immediately incites reaction. Versus if someone went, I'm not a big fan of them making a female Thor. It's just not for me. That's not going to really fly with people. That's going to catch fire, if you will.
Right. So look at the comments. Cami Reader 1717 is on, and she says that, shocking that people get mad because of anything different. And I agree with that. And at the same time, I also get the idea of not being happy with something if it suddenly radically changes from what it is that you enjoy. So I get that. We all have ideas of what we think certain characters should act and be like and whatnot. And if they radically change from that on a long-term basis, I get the idea of not being happy with that. If you were really enjoying the Odin Son stories and whatnot, and suddenly he doesn't exist in a comic book anywhere, I can see where that seems unfair. I can empathize with that. Now, can I empathize with the behavior that comes after that? No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I continue to rant and rave over the fact that John Constantine is nothing of the character that he was back when he was still in the Vertigo book and whatnot. I'm still personally offended because it was me and about 800 other people that bought that comic book when it came out monthly under Vertigo. Personally offended that they canned that book and put him in the New 52. I know that was a personal attack on me. I'm joking. I know it's not, but I understand how it feels that way. I mean, I do get that.
But you're not.
But I'm
you're
not
not going. If someone's going,
I'm not gonna
and
call-
I'm enjoying it.
I'm not going to call for the death of somebody else because they did it, and I'm not hating anybody who liked the New 52 Hellblazer either. And I'm not going to continue to berate them for not liking it. I may continue to hold. Now, I'm not saying if I'm sitting on a show like this and you continue to tell me how great it is, I'm probably going to continue to tell you all the ways I think it isn't as good as what it was. I'm going to hold my ground as far as that goes, but I'm not going to. But it's not personal. You know what I mean? It's not personal. You know?
Yeah, it's like when X-Force in the 90s, they had Cable. I used to pick it up because Cable, he was like the leader. So if he wasn't on X-Force anymore, it's like, why pick up the book if it's the main reason I was reading it was because of that character?
Where if someone told you, check out the Yost run that was not terribly long ago, it's phenomenal, and Cable's not even in it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right.
when a newer, yeah, exactly. When a newer, that felt like a X-Men title to me more than X. It was basically the X-Men characters and X-Force.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just very interesting because I think it's kind of getting worse, like just in the last couple of years. Where before I know I could say like I'm enjoying, I don't know, Action Comics right now, and people would be like, oh, that's nice, and maybe they would tongue in cheek at the most, but it would not get to the point where it's like I'm going to make sure this person doesn't want to feel human anymore for liking something I don't like. Like,
What do you think about that in Superman? The fact that what's his name came out? The Eradicator, or what's his name?
Yeah, Eradicator, the guy with the glasses, the sunglasses.
Yeah, I kind of like that they used them because I hadn't read a Superman book since the death of Superman when those new characters came out. So the fact that he came out, I kind of liked that. I was like, oh shit! I was like, I remember this character.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so weird because I get it, but for me, it's like Daredevil's a character I enjoy and I love, and that comic book is in the toilet right now, and I just stopped picking it up. And if someone came on and was like, "I'm really loving Daredevil," I can't imagine being like, "What?"
This last story arc has been better, but
But you feel when somebody jumps into a title or a character that they never read or know anything about, what you might not like, they have nothing to compare it to, so they might like this new character.
Right, because that's your first exposure to it, so you're not missing whatever it was that I thought was great about a character or whatever that's suddenly been stripped away from and whatnot. Yeah, and that's definitely and the whole kind of look down. Oh, well, clearly you haven't been reading it as long as I have to know what the good stuff is. That was, I mean, I get it. I'm sure there are people out there that have started reading Batman with the Rebirth, and they are thinking it is the shit. It is the best thing that they have read. Whereas those of us who are sitting here are going, oh my God, this Batman run is just like this horror show kind of a thing. Oh my God, this Catwoman, she is cool. I love this character. Whereas I am just like,
yeah, like when I started reading Batman, it was what's his name?
Ra's al Ghul.
No, it was Israel when he was the robot Batman.
Yeah.
But I knew who Batman was. I was like, this is not Batman. Like, even though I never read it, I seen the movies and stuff. I was like, this isn't right. Like,
people. Speaking of people exploding at that time when they thought Batman was gone for good, because people forget how long that lasted. Like, Batman was gone for like 3 months. Azrael was Batman for a while, and there was a real thought that Bruce Wayne wasn't coming back. People were like, "Oh, this aggravates me. I'm not reading Batman anymore." That's where it began and end. If someone said, I'm liking this Azrael Batman, they didn't, get their address put out online and have people harassing them like no one's business. It's like
hate mail.
Yeah,
as kids, now that I read the story, it's not that good. But as kids, we liked that Israel. We wanted Batman back, but we also liked Israel because he was like Spawn, like killing everyone. And he was like all 90s over the top.
The thing that really bothers me, and it's not like you were talking about, like if people have a fundamental problem with a character, that's fine. And you're talking about like Twitter being like an instant sort of like, this is how I feel, blah, like really quick. The thing that bothers me is when people go totally out of left field on a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
that bothers the heck out of me. Like people, I don't think people know exactly what a red herring is and what a cliffhanger is supposed to do.
Exactly.
It bothers me to no end.
Yeah. It's hard not to be snarky and go, so like this is the first comic book you've read, right? It's hard not, and I don't want to be that person because I don't want to be that. Oh, I've been reading comic books forever kind of thing. But there is a certain element to that where you're just like going, seriously. I mean, I go, oh my god. I mean, clearly, even talking independent comics when what happened in Deadly Class happened. I mean, I'm like going, there's no way, but you don't burn the house down. You wait to see what the next issue is.
I love those cliffhangers and all that. I think you need that because that gets you to come back to. You want to know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Comic books one-on-one
discussion.
You need it. Like in the season finale of shows, they always end that way because they want you to come back 3 months from now.
Go read a Golden Age comic book in trade, and you'll laugh your ass off. Yeah. Because every issue ends with, is he going to die? Will this happen? Will that happen? And then you just turn the page and all the answers are right on the next. That's how they sold comic books. And they probably still should sell comic books that way in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those Silver Age books where there's really 3 stories in the book. You read the first one, it ends 6 pages in, the next one is another 6 pages, the next another 6 pages, book is done. You've read 3 stories and whatever was, oh my gosh, on one page, as soon as you flip past the Hostess Twinkies ad, boom, you know what happens, or you read down the bottom, continued on page, whatever kind of a thing.
Yeah. I forgot what I was reading the Wonder Woman issues. I read the first issue. I think it's like a 40-page issue.
Yeah.
And in one issue, I was like, wow, this would be like a year's worth of story in today's comics. The George Perez run.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, heavy thought bubbles and all that kind of stuff. There's all this prose in there, all these boxes. You're like, oh my God, they buried the art under all those things. Yeah, you can definitely tell you're reading an 80s book for sure. So Jacquio says that DC has been unreadable for me since Flashpoint. F. Johns, Ditto, and Lee. And you know what? There are days that I think hiring those guys was one of the worst things they could have ever done. And those guys are even more, Jeff Johns maybe a little less so, but even more so if you actually go to a con and you sit on a panel and listen to those guys talk, you kind of want to just like scream by the time it's over with because they're so kind of condescending on their version of how it's all going to be because they're in control. It's like
Didio's laugh triggers me.
Oh, right, right. But and I get it. I mean, I get it. There's people that was the end. Certainly, when the New 52 hit, that's the end. Kind of thing. I just remember when Flashpoint came out. I went to that was my first con to go to. We get there. We get to the DC panels, and literally the answer to any question or any thought anybody has is wait and read Flashpoint. Like Flashpoint was going to just blow our minds and. There are some side stories about Flashpoint that I really liked. The Batman, for instance, was awesome. I love that story.
Way good.
But otherwise it was like, this is kind of a crazy Elseworlds story. And if I can read it for that, fine. But the fact that I was supposed to follow these weird threads and this robed character, the whole Pandora thing that came out of that just made me kind of want to, beat my head against the wall by the time that was all done.
Though I thought it was really funny in the DC Rebirth issue where they just got rid of the Pandora thing.
Yes.
I laughed.
Yes. Let's get rid of that. Of course, they created a whole new set of reoccurring mystery characters with the stupid robed ass and the Watchmen buttons and all that BS. Trust me, I'm being nice to DC right now, but at some point I'll be here raging about that as a company as a whole when they start really bringing that stuff out next year.
But just like Marvel, I'm not really reading a lot of the super heavy hitter like Justice League and all that. I think would be affected with that. I
think that's going to F with every book. Yeah. I think my time is done.
I think it's going to be company wide.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of happy right now that I'm not reading either Suicide Squad or Justice League, but I know there's some people that are either reading.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I dropped them both. Going into it.
I just don't know that.
Oh, Don, we have to talk about. Okay, so that brings up another thing. So, worst ad in a comic book. Is it the half-page Twinkie ad that came out like 6 months ago in DC?
Twix.
Oh, Twix. You're right, Twix. or is it this mother effing 12 12-page pile of yes, it makes all of my DC comics weigh 6 tons.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I have to admit, you know what? I actually kind of like this big old picture. These characters look cool, but this is a effing ad.
Yeah.
That's a poster.
This is an ad in my comic book. It's bigger than the comic book. The ad in my comic book is bigger than the comic book. Which is it?
People tend to like the centerfolds and those things. I don't know, man. Oh, you're a comic book. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's how they keep their books at $2.99.
This one might be sticking in the middle for me screaming at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so weird because I saw Sarge on Twitter put that out, and I'm like, what? I thought he was joking.
Oh.
So I was like, so I get my books. I'm like, yeah, he's joking. And then I'm like, wow, Supergirl is super thick.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I forgot. Cammy brings up a third runner-up for it. The Snickers, the 12-page Snickers ad. And then they chop down to like 1 page in every one of our comics for thing. So clearly, as much as I pick on some companies, everybody thinks that DC's my darling company. Their ads are, what the hell?
Now,
and for me, the Snickers bar is doubly offensive, I think. And this is me I'll be offended for the ladies.
Yeah.
In the fact that, of course, in the Snickers ad,
right.
who is the cranky bitch that ends up being like Doomsday? It's Wonder Woman. It couldn't be Batman or Superman. It's them giving Wonder Woman a Snickers bar because she needs the cooler jets.
She's the cranky one.
Come on.
Now, Marvel, of course, I did also say Marvel did make the mistake too, because I had when they were kicking into their Civil War, there was the 4 or 5 page or 6 page.
It's still not as bad as this, Mike.
It's not, but then Marvel also had the Luke Cage that looked so good.
Oh, the shaving one. Oh.
And you're like, why is how does this affect my comic? And then you realize that's an advertisement. That wasn't supposed to be in there.
It was worse when you read Power Man and Iron Fist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're just like, wait, what?
You open it up and the first page is that, and you're going, whoa, they really changed the art. Yeah. Why are they talking about shaving his head? What the hell's yeah? And yeah.
Yeah, it's worse when they use comic art in it because it confuses you. It seems like it blends into the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot worse than when it's just a picture.
So yeah, that was crazy. These I'm like picked up that first book and I'm like, just like CC, I'm like, wow, I wasn't thinking about Mike talking about there being the added. And I'm like, man, that book feels heavy. Oh my gosh, it's because it's got a whole other book of ads in it.
Well, my wife comes in and it's all folded out over the chair so I can get a photo. She's like, what are you doing with your comic?
But to be fair to DC, and we've trashed DC for a minute, Marvel does it too to a degree. Like in the middle, it'll have ads for new.
That's what Mike said, but not nearly as bad as this one is.
Yeah.
And like I said, the half-page ad that breaks up what the artist knew was a full-page art, and it gets split and stuff. Oh my god. Yeah, awesome.
I haven't had a Twix since. I'm going to be honest. that put me off Twix.
Yep.
Oh, I can't go without Twix. That made me buy a lot of Twix.
I have to admit, I've eaten a few Snickers bars to bring me down off of my period, but
if it was Reese's or something like that, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's a good ad. I don't feel like having one right now.
Oh, but yeah, that's crazy, huh? Jeez. And of course, Jockio makes the comment as DC has all those giant ads because, of course, it's a $2.99 book. And so I'll suffer with my ads for a $2.99 book. That's fine. If getting a Twix ad is what's going to keep me in my book $1 less than the Marvel books for the same level of content, cool.
That means Marvel has no reason then for us paying our price and having the comic book covers that you leave your fingerprints in.
Yes. Give us covers that don't peel off, right? Give us covers that aren't low quality toilet paper, and we might be okay. Exactly.
Yeah, I know a lot of people hate the hologram and foil covers. I used to love those.
Oh, those sold like hotcakes back in the day. Like
I wish the variant covers would be holograms and foils instead of.
I think that's what helped create the bubble in the first place.
Yeah.
Because people were buying those thinking like I'm going to be able to retire off of this comic, and it was just that Jim Lee X-Men cover.
Oh yeah, the
like
20
where you had to buy 4 of them. Like that's the highest selling comic book of all time, and I bet you could get it for dirt cheap.
A quarter.
I haven't even looked it up.
Yeah, that's like I remember seeing on the national news people lining up to buy the Death of Superman in the black.
Yeah, with the black bag. Oh man!
And now you go anywhere. Now you go anywhere, and they're in the $1 or less bin. You know, never been opened.
In school, the day those books came out, that's all everyone was talking about. Did you get the new X-Men? Oh, that you read it, and it was the talk on recess and all that. It was a
you know what? You went
their copy.
You went to a cool school then, because when I was that kind of age to be going, I mean, was going to school, I would have gotten my ass kicked if I was going, hey, did you check out this comic book?
Oh no,
dude, those are the people that got beat up.
When Jimmy was on X-Men and McFarlane was on Spider-Man, comic books were. If you were reading them in school, if you didn't show up with a new copy, you were not the cool kid. Like, oh, he didn't even read it. Like,
that's awesome.
That's really.
They were like a big part of pop culture. Comics.
That's really cool. MTV, that's really cool, and I'm really jealous because, like I said, for me it was the '70s, and it was like you found those few rare friends that read comic books, and probably more people read comic books than I knew because most of us hid the fact we read comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's like if you show up to school now with a book, nobody else would read one. They'll be like, "What's that?"
Yeah, what's a book?
Yeah.
I remember when I had my first apartment, and I had a bookshelf with like trades on it, and I brought this girl home, and she's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's my roommate's." I don't know. It's like, he's a weirdo. Like, I don't know.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it was weird because that felt more recent. That's cool. That.
She used to get pissed when I started getting back into books. She's like, what's that? I was like, oh, I used to read these as kids. So I got like this big nostalgia trip and wanted to go back and buy all the old 90s stuff that I used to read. And she would just roll her eyes like, why are you wasting your money? Like, why are we coming to these places? Like,
it's cool.
Yeah, that's right.
But when I was a kid, if you read comic books, something was wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Little do they know that that's prepared us to survive all the apocalypses that are coming.
Exactly.
Then I used to live right here by where Jim Lee lives. Back when he was on X-Men in Oceanside, I used to live there. So he was big. He was like this big local hero, that made it out of the city,
Nice.
But does anyone know what kind of phone, like a Samsung phone, blew up on that guy? I know everyone saw that on Twitter. Because I got a Samsung right here. I'm afraid to put this thing next to my head. I don't know if you saw that. Go on Twitter, look at the trending Samsung thing.
I didn't see that, but I know they were having issues with the S7.
Yeah, it's the S7.
Oh, good.
Don't put it around. Put it around your cable box.
Mine's a 6, so mine's a 6, so I'm not worried about it.
Mine's a 6 too.
Yeah.
I thought it was the notepad or notebook one, not the S7.
I think it's the 7.
The S7 was the one where you can't even take it on planes anymore.
Right.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a charge this.
Like you need to send it back to the manufacturer, but there's no way to send it back because there's no way to mail it back because no one will accept it.
Yeah, you can't put it on a plane. You can't mail it.
Right.
Right. Great. No, so the guy, I mean, he's kind of a dirtbag guy in rap. You think CeeLo, like he said, if they're passed out, it's not sexual assault.
One of those guys.
It's that guy. And if you go on Twitter right now, and look under the Samsung, there's video of him talking on his Samsung phone, and it just blows up next to his head. And I'm like, oh, great.
Awesome.
Now everyone's going on Twitter.
Yes, we're all logging in. What? So let's what's 2017 gonna have in store for us comic book wise? Any wild predictions, or even farther flung into the future? Is there something prediction you want to make, like the fact that in the next 10, 15 years, digital comics will be dead, and anything like that sounds really reasonable? Or
no, in fact, technology needs to catch up with comic books. It's going to happen that you're going to open your physical copy, and it should have that little chip that cards have, and then they should just be able to sing songs and play music and talk in the voices. I don't know why that hasn't hit yet.
That sounds horrible.
The Hallmark cards. The Hallmark
Yeah.
cards.
Nothing
like those-
personal, but there's already those TV shows and stuff. I mean, that's what you're talking about. So
Yeah, the partial movement ones.
I was
yeah,
gonna say, are you talking about like those really, really old children's books where you open it up and the book talks to you?
Yeah, where's Teddy
Like,
Ruxpin
Hallmark
should be reading my
cards
comics.
So I'm
Teddy.
with Cammy. I'm with Cammy. Cammy says Batwoman, bring it on. Super excited for that book. Been
Mhm.
seeing snippets of Epstein's art, and I'm sorry, he draws a gorgeous. I mean, you know, granted, Batwoman's got that great red hair, fire red hair, and yeah, his artwork, that painted look of it looks awesome on its own.
It was cool, and not to like toot my own horn, it was cool to see a Hanukkah story in a comic book. Like that was cool. Like I don't know if anyone else read that, but
What book?
the holiday special.
Oh, I'm only halfway through it. So awesome.
Batwoman. Like people are like, why are you like Batman? I'm like, she's one of the few Jewish characters that's
yeah.
out there and
Yeah,
stuff. It's like
her, and there's Kitty Pride, and
Yeah, Kitty Pryde
Ben Drum.
Jewish.
and Thing and Magneto, and then like a bunch of subs, half of Spider-Man, and that's about it. But yeah, it's cool to have like a main, you know, character that's kind of badass and like not a typical stereotypical Jewish person be in a comic book. Like
well, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're 100% for sure.
4 o'clock Wednesday, that sold out in my store. Me and my buddies showed up, and we were ready to grab it, and they just blew through it. Everybody got there early and grabbed all the holiday issues.
wow.
That kind of surprises me because it's a $10 book. It's a $10 book, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Damn.
I went to my shop on Thursday, and my shop had plenty of them still. And that's the reason why I didn't pick it up, is because even with Canadian, it's gonna be like $12, and it's like,
Yeah, that's a pricey comic, $10.
Hey, Mike, DaCosta's calling you out of the fact that you just described Tom Hanks's invention from the movie Big.
I forgot.
Yeah.
All right.
So there you go. Chakio's prediction is my prediction is that DC will still fail to make a truly good movie. So you're already saying Wonder Woman's gonna suck. I'm stoked for that movie.
I want Wonder Woman to do good. I'm not excited for Justice League though. Doesn't look
me neither.
But
That's just because you don't like what's his face, the guy that's playing Aquaman. If you liked him, you'd already like that movie because I've seen the little gift of him walking out of the water with the water dripping off of him. And
I actually like that.
I'm saying there were other wet people in my house at the time, so I don't know. So
He looks
to me from the commercial.
he looks like a badass.
I know.
That was one of the
I like him
cooler.
in the commercial. He looks like the '90s Aquaman with the hood.
I mean,
with
you
the
could
beard
argue that he's just Carl Dargo with a few more tattoos in water. Fine, whatever. He still looks like a badass. I mean, is he gonna work as Aquaman? I don't know, because I mean, I think there is we haven't seen it, so I don't think you can really debate it right now. But if he's gonna be this brooding, crush it meathead, as opposed to a thoughtful think through kind of, that might be a problem. If they dumb Aquaman down too much, I could see a complaint there and whatnot. But I'm not worried about it now. Like I said, right now,
But
he's gonna
he
be badass.
does have a point. You know, DC has failed to make good movies, and Marvel has continued to make mediocre ones. So let's just call it where it is.
I think that Aquaman is gonna be the breakout star of that movie.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious to about that whole conversation around about a good movie. What's the bar for a good movie, and what are we using to determine what is a good movie? Because if you look at the sales for Suicide Squad, it has kicked the ass of more than half of the Marvel movies. So that means it must be a better movie if that's what you're going to use as a better movie. Jacquio is saying that remember those Suicide Squad trailers, because clearly everybody thought the movie was going to be great based on the trailers, because the trailers made it look awesome. I hate to break it to you, I had fun watching that movie. Do I think it's a great movie? No, but I had a hell of a lot of fun watching that movie. I had more fun watching that movie than I've had watching a lot of the Marvel movies. But that's my bias.
No,
I like those characters, so I'm going to have more fun watching those characters.
I thought Doctor Strange was a fun movie. The people I went with it was a fun movie. But am I saying it's leaps and bounds, or Captain America, the Civil War was leaps and bounds ahead of Suicide Squad? I think people are having tinted glasses on. To be honest, they're not Citizen fucking Kane. I'm sorry, they're not meant to be. They're not meant to be.
No.
But to act like there's this huge disparity in quality between these Marvel movies and these DC movies, I think you're ridiculous to think that.
Well,
Yeah, like when I watched the Batman Superman, I thought that was a really good movie, and a lot of people didn't like it. But I saw the extended cut, but I thought it was good.
They're clearly different styles of movies. They have the same subject matter in them in that it's a superhero genre, but they're clearly different style of movies. I mean, Marvel has this kind of brighter look. I mean, there's some dark stuff goes on in it, clearly, but it's just kind of it's lit, it's stylized, it has the zingy one-liners kind of thing in it. That's the style of movies those all are. And DC is, wants to shoot everything inside of a dark alley, and that's how they operate with a lot of their stuff.
Also, I think I think Disneyland is like a better company than Warner Brothers. It's not necessarily that the characters in it.
Oh yeah, Disney's gonna clearly, but I would say the problem is people want this bubble to burst and they don't even realize it. They're wanting every movie to be like a Marvel movie, and what they don't realize is if you don't have a little bit, and I know this is a hot ticket word nowadays, a little diversity in your superhero movies, you get a little bit of different things going in here, it'll be a lot longer of a genre than if everyone's some goofy little toy that's coming out here in a week. A tree and stuff like that cuts wind and stuff like that. It's like, if everything's going to be like that, you're asking for the bubble to burst on these movies. Yeah, you're asking
that could be different. It's like saying all the Arnold movies had to be the same as the Sylvester Stallone movies.
But I think there's potentially a larger discussion around movies in general, not just superhero genre movies, about where a lot of movies are going right now and how they're all kind of sequels and all kind of homogenized and all kind of, not the same quality. I mean, the movies that get the attention and make all the money and whatnot, the studios want the immediate, quick buck, and you don't get these really thoughtful movies. Those are the movies that do that. You can't sell a thoughtful movie on a 30-second trailer like you can,
with some exceptions.
Star Wars, like you can the Avengers, like you can Superman, like all those kind of big flashy things. You can sell that stuff in a 30-second ad. You can't do that with a lot of thoughtful movies and whatnot. That's why I think the more thoughtful productions are happening, like on Netflix. I think those Marvel productions, and I'm excited for whatever's next, whichever one I think is going to be next. I'm not sure which one. Mike, do you know which one's next as far as the Netflix productions? Or Brandon?
Iron Fist.
Yes.
Iron Fist. I'm super stoked for it. I mean, I know there's people with some issues around the race of the character and what it should have been versus what it is or whatever, but I'm still excited for that show because all of those have been thoughtful in some sense or another. I think the second season of Daredevil maybe wasn't as strong as the first one was, but those Netflix things are clearly different than the movies.
But there are movies where you can have like action and flash. Like Mad Max Fury Road was a very thoughtful movie, and yet it was sold in a 30-second flash ad. Yeah. So I mean, you can do it. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right. Agreed. There are exceptions, but as the general rule, that's not. That's not the case. So, yeah. I'm like I said, I'm still super stoked for Wonder Woman. I hope it does really well, super well. Not because it's a DC thing, but just for a lot of other social reasons. I hope that movie
I want that movie
kicks everybody's ass.
What about you heard about that movie Ghost in the Shell? I heard a lot of complaining about that too. That Scarlett Johansson was playing.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't get that though. If they don't like the character, if they like the characters changing and other stuff, why does it matter in this then?
Well, I mean, there's some real points of that, like Scarlett Johansson I don't think is the strongest actor in the world, but like I understand that has nothing to do with what people are upset about with that.
Right.
But, I don't know. It's weird that they're making a movie of Ghost in the Shell, like a live action westernized movie. That to me should have been made in Japan, to be blatantly honest.
I mean, we already have that movie anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they got her because she recently did that movie Lucy.
Yeah.
You guys ever saw that? And it has some similarities, like.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe that's why they decided to go with her.
Did they
But I
ever,
agree, I don't
not to
think
get
she's
too
the greatest.
anime-ish, but did they ever make that Cowboy Bebop with Keanu Reeves, or was that never going to happen?
Never happened.
He's still talking about it though. My friend was telling me about it the other day at school that he's still in talks that he'll back the movie financially. He won't star in it though because he knows he's getting too old.
Yeah, that's just like Nicolas Cage still talks about being Superman too. So
Yeah. And those are some of the funnest pictures to look up. If you're ever like have nothing to do, just look up his super. I mean, he did test shots for Superman, and it's hilarious to look at it. And you're like, dude, I wouldn't have made it 2 minutes into this movie without laughing my ass off.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I think Wonder Woman's going to be good. I think it's good on the one hand that we have some high expectations for these movies, but on the other hand, it's like it's just a superhero movie. Like to expect it to be comic book perfect, I think is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah,
Because on the reverse, whenever they turn a movie into a comic book, it's usually not that great either. So I mean, you're comparing a medium where you can do anything. Comic books, you can do anything. That's why you have like IDW's, like, you know, Star Trek meets Green Lantern. You couldn't make that movie, but you couldn't. I would go watch it. Of course, I'd go watch it.
Thank God, yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But then you're comparing it to like where they're having to spend hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars to make this movie, and they want to make. For those of you who don't know how movies work, they have to make double whatever they spend back in order for you to even be considered profitable. So for people to be like, oh, why isn't it just like the comic book? It's like they have to make sure that it appeals to not just us. Believe it or not, look at our YouTube channels. Look how many subscribers the average one in the comic book community has. We're not a huge group that's going to make them hundreds of millions of dollars. Believe it or not. Shocking as that sounds.
What?
So they
for yourself there. I don't know.
Golly.
Yeah, they'll make money in movies. People just don't like reading.
So
that's true.
DaCosta's in the comments, and he said that Scott Pilgrim nailed it for him, and I have to agree. That movie really did capture the books really well. So yeah.
That movie is the way I wish they would have made Mario Brothers.
Oh man, that movie!
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, if they would have had video game elements like Scott Pilgrim, I would have been badass. But that movie, it was. If you didn't name it Mario Brothers, you wouldn't know what it was based on.
But like speaking of that, like when you're talking about the Netflix stuff, they have the time. And if I was going to be just as nitpicky, I'm sure I could do that. Like I love Luke Cage. It was kind of slow at first, but then as it kind of got further into, I'm like, oh, this is actually really good. But they have the time to do all that, and they're only beholden to Netflix, aren't they? They're not beholden to all these like other sub companies and all that are going to be like, no, we want to make all these changes.
Right.
That's kind of where I think a lot of these things are falling on the wayside. The fact that Batman versus Superman was made at all, if you're a longtime fan, should blow your mind.
It does. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. You know, junior high and high school age me, all of this stuff that's coming out, these TV shows, short of the Spider-Man show that was out for a little bit when I was as a little kid, Wonder Woman was around, and those were all kind of laughable attempts at trying to create superhero dramas. But the stuff that's now, the fact that there is a major motion picture of any of this stuff, is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. I was for the age I am, because there was Super Friends. That was it. And that was not a sophisticated cartoon. I'm sorry. I mean, at least like you guys that grew up in the '90s that had the X-Men comic,
the animated series, Batman,
the animated, that
Spider-Man.
stuff. It actually drove a story from episode to episode. I mean, for me as a kid, my cartoons they were not episodic. It didn't matter. You could watch them in the order you wanted to. It was like the comic books back then. It wasn't relevant. I mean, it didn't matter what order. Yeah,
because even the X-Men cartoons and the Spider-Man were kind of 80% based on the issues on the comics.
But when I was sitting, like, that's what I mean. I was sitting in Suicide Squad, and I just had that moment where I'm like, I'm watching a movie right now that has Deadshot and Captain Boomerang as some of the main characters.
Right.
Like, if you told me that at like 14, I'd have been like, bullshit. That's never happening.
Yeah.
Like, that is crazy. And I'm not saying like that, therefore I'm giving it a pass. It's just more or less take it in for a second.
Right.
What about the actor that plays Captain America? He was saying that a lot of these superhero movies with all the new technology, the studios want to make them because it's an excuse where they could show off all their new special effects and technology that the companies have now.
Yeah, and to be fair, on the side of Marvel, the fact if you ever told me there was an Avengers movie with Captain America, Thor, Hulk, all in one movie, and it's good, it's a good solid movie, I would be like, no, because if you ever saw like the old Hulk TV movie special with Daredevil,
a lot better than that, but
or the one with Thor, like are those the same one? But like he has like that radar vision.
Yeah, where he fights Thor and Daredevil's with the black mask, the black shirt or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so part of me is like,
and it seemed like even quite a jump from the first Hulk movie to the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah. Saw that in the drive-in.
What about if that Batman versus Superman movie would have came out before Avengers?
That's a good.
Well, see, here's the thing: is the problem is, it's for fans. I think it's hard to have a discussion about these movies because ultimately, the whole line starts to get drawn. DC versus Marvel. It inevitably comes into the conversation. It doesn't seem to be possible to not have that. So you almost have to take somebody who does not understand superhero stuff at all, does not give a flying F as to who's. You got to find that person.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people they don't even know it's two. They don't even know two different companies.
Right. You got to find that person that asks the questions. How come Wolverine isn't running around with Batman? That's the person you have go watch all the movies and ask them which one they like best. I'm serious because the rest of us all have a taint. I'm going to back the DC movies. Jacchio is going to back the Marvel movies, and that's kind of where it is. I mean, I don't hate those movies, but I like these movies better, and I just think it's kind of that happens. As a fan base, I don't see how. I mean, so it's hard to determine to say what's a better movie or not.
I feel like if Batman vs Superman came out before Avengers, it would have done better because it would have been the first time you have these characters teaming up in the same movie. And since Avengers did it first, it was kind of like, well, it kind of happened already.
Well, and I would say that Marvel's success is its own issue too, is that once the movie worked a certain way, you can't have Ant-Man Edgar Wright style. You can't have Doctor Strange someone else's style. They all have to fit a very certain style.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me about Doctor Strange is he's doing these clips and stuff like that. I'm like, no. He's an arrogant ass for the first half of this movie if you're doing it right. He's an arrogant ass that thinks that he knows it all and all that. And then you have him be humbled. But now, he's making like these wisecracks. He's like, oh, this is the Wi-Fi password? Like that. I'm like, dude, come on. He's in a Tibetan temple and they hand him this Shangri-La card and it's like, oh, that's the Wi-Fi. I'm like, it's a Marvel movie. All right. I'll let that slide.
Yeah, like you were getting about the characters. Like most of the people I talk to don't follow comics. But everybody loves Batman. They all go to see Batman the first day it comes out. They don't even know
Batman's a stud.
Don't know he's Marvel DC, but they know they like him and they got posters at home.
Well, I know people that are mostly Marvel fans that mostly like Marvel comics, and they'll read a Batman comic or they'll go see a Batman movie. Like Batman kind of is one of those cross-platform types. Like, like Spider-Man, I would say is Marvel's version of that. But I don't know. I find it funny that people are rating these as if they're trying to think like the modern equivalent, like comparing like Black Mirror to one of these. It's like, no, this is not trying to provoke these kind of thoughts. It's not trying to, you're not supposed to leave it and be like, wow, I've never thought about the world this way before. It's just supposed to be a popcorn movie, and it's so weird that.
Yeah, but I guess you need that. You need that competition to drive each other. Because when the Xbox and the PlayStation came out, they helped each other sales wise because they're constantly competing. And when we came out a year earlier by itself with nothing to compete against, no one talked about it.
Yeah, but it sold more than anything else. But I think the idea that maybe that was the problem with Batman versus Superman for some people is it wasn't necessarily as popcorny. It did kind of get dark and serious in some parts, and then obviously them having the same mother's name being a big. There was some elements that were a little bit risible about it, to be sure, but I think the biggest complaint a lot of people are saying is it's not a Marvel movie in tone and everything like that. And it's like, I don't think you'd want that. Maybe with a Superman movie, I agree with that criticism, saying like Superman was too dark of a character, and it's like, yeah, you kind of have to have him be a little more.
Superman was a sci-fi movie as opposed to a superhero movie.
Yeah, because the Man of Steel, he was.
Yeah.
It's like, no, and I get that, like, we live in dark times, but he's supposed to kind of be the Boy Scout that no matter how dark it gets, he's like, no, there's hope at the end of the tunnel. Batman's supposed to be like, hope's long gone, I just got to kick ass.
I'm just going to brand everybody I see.
Which was like, dude, I don't think he would do that. Like, I remember watching that. I was like,
that's probably the thing that bothered me the most about the Batman Superman movie was him branding the villains. I'm like, no, kill him, fine. Kill him, I can get around. Branding him, I cannot get around.
Okay. Here's where I would say that would happen. Jason Todd's dead body is like right there, like right next to him. You might have pushed him to brand some people at that point. Like that's the only because like when Damian died, he was breaking mad bones, and you're like, well, yeah, Damian died, but they didn't give you any reason where he's like that vicious now. Like I get that they were drawing off the Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that, but they didn't really explain that to the audience. Like if I was brand new to this, you'd be like, why is he so vicious? Why is he firing a gun in this dream sequence? What is going on? I get it.
I kind of like old Batman though, old cranky Batman.
Yeah.
I liked Affleck's old cranky Batman, kind of thing. So I don't know how that works when they go to a Justice League movie, but here nor there. Yeah. So predictions for 2017.
Okay.
What do we think?
So,
anything you're super looking forward to? Think it's going to be, we've said Batwoman.
Prediction in the movie realm. I get that Spawn script from McFarlane for the new Spawn movie.
You think?
I don't know.
I'm a Spawn fan, so I hope it's good. I'm nervous. I'm nervous it's not enough big.
Like, for the past 3 years, he's been teasing us like, "Oh, I'm working on that new Spawn." Well, ever since the last Spawn movie, but like more recently in the last 3 years, he's been like, "I got that script. I'm almost done with the script this year at Comic-Con. You're getting that script. Give it to us, or at least pretend like he's actually got it, like more than he usually does."
Is Batman selling well? Is Batman the comic book selling well? I haven't looked at all.
I have no idea.
Nah,
I'm sure it's selling okay, but do you think we'll get a new writer?
Well, that's what it needs. It's a legit writer. It has some guy that like, what's his name, Hogan or something. I tried reading some of the not the newer stuff, but stuff from like issue 210 or something, and it's not that good.
Oh, Spawn?
Yeah, Spawn.
Yeah, no.
Spawn hasn't been good in a while. I heard it was good for like the recent ones were okay.
So CDC, you're predicting new Batman writer?
I will know if it's selling well. No, because if it's doing well, I mean, you never felt that the wolves were at the door of Snyder.
Not ever,
because it was selling well.
Not ever. I have no idea. I have no idea. Try to think. I mean, my big prediction is the death of digital. So, or maybe that's just really wishful thinking on my behalf. I don't know.
I think that digital might be hurting. Might be changing how printed media works a little bit more. I could see that definitely happening in reality. That's one thing I am liking about digital to a degree is Diamond isn't necessarily being able to just. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're not the only distributor.
Yeah.
Because now, yeah. I just don't want them. Here's my thing. Love digital. Think it's great for everybody else who wants it and whatnot. It's not my cup of tea. I just don't want it to change the structure of how. I don't want my artists making my artists because I own them. I don't want them making changes based on what it's going to look like on the digital page. That's my only concern. Continue to stretch the craft in every direction you want to design it for the physical page. And then however that works out for digital, fine, whatever. I just don't want them to potentially dumb down my page, my panel layouts. That sets pacing, that sets all kinds of stuff about a comic book and about sequential art that you may not be able in verbal terms be able to talk about, but your brain registers how that stuff is working, whether you realize it or not. It's subconsciously there. I don't want that dumbed down because it's going to work better on my smartphone if it's paneled in a particular way or whatever. Just please don't let it ever do that.
That's what I hope though, is like as technology gets better, is it'll be, instead of going like this is the new way to do it, they'll go, we'll make the old way more, digital, so it'll look more like you're reading a comic book. That's where I'm hoping it goes versus what you're saying, where it's like 4K resolution comics, and you're like, oh shit.
Hey Travis, do you feel that's already kind of happening?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's what I noticed too.
I have heard of artists going, well, I kind of need to look at this. Not so much anymore. For digital first hit, it was like you started hearing people kind of go, yeah, I need to kind of think about that, and that made me nervous. I don't have a problem with digital artists. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to using their Connect pad, and so there's no physical pages. And I'm an art collector. I mean, I collect pages of original comic book art. That's not really going away. There are those. Thankfully, there's a market for that art, and so there's a certain amount of creators that they want to maintain that secondary market. As much as Sean Murphy has in the past gone, hey, it might be really easy to do all this stuff digitally. It may be simpler for me. I like that secondary market, being able to sell my pages, so that's not going away anytime. Kind of a thing. So
yeah, because I noticed the way the panels are laid out and the shape of them and stuff. I looked at some of the newer books and I was like, wow, they're a lot more plain looking than some of these old books. And I like more how they look on the old ones. But then when I read those same issues digitally, I go, oh, I see why they keep them certain shapes and stuff so it could fit your screen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably going to happen. I can't. But then again, I don't think we have any scope of what digital is. The most I've read is it's 70% of physical when it comes to sales.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when people go, this is only selling this much, you don't know at least 75% of the story, because I think Miss Marvel is selling phenomenally in digital and it's selling okay in physical. So I think they have to kind of pay attention to that market and go, we have to cater to that a little bit to a degree, because some people strictly only read in digital too. Exactly.
I'm not a big fan of digital either. I mean, I'll read it sometimes, but I'd rather have the copy.
But you got to realize that we're having the same conversation of like, I still like riding my horse into town, and this car that they're doing bullshit is changing everything. Like, we're kind of having that conversation right now.
Yes and no, but I mean, for how
many years? That's analogy.
But for how many years have they been saying that that physical books are going to go away? And they haven't. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they'll go away.
All right, well, go buy me a magazine real quick.
I don't think they'll go away just for the fact of the collectible aspect.
There's stores all over, Mike.
But are you okay? But now you're being a wise ass, because I'm telling you, go back 15 years and buy me a magazine.
Yes, I know.
No. Because
yeah, come on, dude. Like, are you saying my point is not valid?
The biggest defense I would say is my comic shop owner just opened a new shop in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, so he's expanding.
Yeah, he's expanding. So, I mean, I see that it's evidently doing very well for those who are engaging the buyers.
Well, right. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know the details because this is a busy time of the year for me. Getting to do this show is a luxury kind of a thing. But I do know there was some conversation on Twitter about that there were some stores that had multi-chains that were folding. Like whole chains worth of comic book stores were folding because they were not, well, not even Hastings. I'm talking Hastings. I'm talking like Mike's store. It's a mom and pop store, and he's expanding it out to another store or whatever that's down the road and stuff. And some of these are, and so there were creators on going, hey, don't buy everything from Amazon. Make sure you're checking out your local comic book store. Go in there to buy the trade or whatever. Kind of a thing. So there must have been something. There must have been something significant enough to kind of have problems that there were creators on kind of thinking, hey, I need to support the brick and mortar store. That's not Amazon. So
well, and I don't think people that are pro digital realize that if the brick and mortar stores go, that's going to fundamentally affect the industry.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like everybody who's that's pro indie and don't want something to do with the big two, and they just like the big two to collapse and fall apart and celebrate. If the big two collapse, our comics are gone. Our comics are gone because the big true is the structure. They need to be healthy and they need to be growing, because if they're healthy and growing, everything else works along with it. If it goes down, everything's gone. There will be no comics. Comics will be the stapled together stuff that you buy from the talented guy that lives down the street that's selling them out of his back.
You were just saying earlier. You were just saying earlier that if an artist wants to actually stay afloat, they have to go work for the big two for a little bit. So, I mean, I think people don't factor that in, that if it was just Image, Image is pretty big. It's pretty big company.
13% of the marketplace now.
Yeah.
But if the big two are gone, it's not just that, Diamond won't be able to. It's that some of these artists won't be able to work. They'll have to go get, 9 to 5s.
Right.
Because they won't be able to work just in indie.
Right.
I don't think people realize that.
Yeah. As much as they're the stinky, evil corporate, people who only want to do corporate things with their, with their product, that's the structure everything else is built around. And if it goes down, everything goes down with it. That's kind of why when Marvel took over so much stuff back in the 90s and they collapsed, they almost took everything with it, because it was so much of everything that so you may not like those. You don't have to buy any of their books. I'm not saying you do that or whatnot, but wishing for their death, is the death of comics, just kind of offhandedly.
Yeah, it sucks too, because I like the idea of being able to go to a comic book store and kind of browse and look around and stuff like that. Like,
I'd love to be able to.
I know that. Yeah, but was there ever shops in that area at any time?
Yes. Yes.
Or was
the only reason I'm in comic books now is because as a kid, I walked past a comic book store every day on my way to junior high and high school. For 6 years, I walked past a comic book store. It was a bookstore / comic book store. That's what got me going into comics in the first place. And that was around for a lot of years. That's where I went to until they had to get out of the business for health reasons. And then we've had spotty comic things in the past, but
see, to me, I think that's kind of, my siblings more, but just going in there, like when I was visiting home, I took my nephew to a comic book store and I just walked around and looked at stuff like, oh, I've never read that, what is that, that's huge. And I don't think I can do that looking at a screen and going like, okay, that's an interesting cover, picking something up and just flipping through it.
It's hard.
Yeah,
because that's how I have to shop, because I don't have a store.
Yeah,
me too. I like when you're in a store, since I buy hardcovers too, when I look at the binding and flip through a few pages, see the quality, because you're spending they're expensive. You want to know exactly what you're buying, and you're right on the screen. It's not the same. I bought this book, and I didn't even know when I bought it. It's a huge book. I'm not talking thick wise, but it's big, and I thought it was the regular hardcover size, and you couldn't tell from a picture. So I just ordered it, and I was like, what the hell?
Not only that, but all it takes is the right kind of crash and all my digital stuff's gone. All it takes for me is the right kind of fire and me not moving my ass to lose my comics. You
grab your all right, comic CDC fire. You grab your comics first or your photo albums?
Well, I don't have any photo albums. There are some things I would grab first. They're living things that would definitely get out. But the comic books are, top 10 for sure. But
yeah, we've had conversations in the past over the years about do we have the house is on fire comic book box? Do you put certain comic books in a box by themselves So that's if you can only save one box, that's the box you're saving. Do you have those comics set separately because they're either your favorite or they're the ones that might actually have some dollar value?
Yeah,
or
that's a good idea. Put all the expensive ones in a separate box so you know what box to grab.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
all it takes for the digital is someone hacking something or
Yeah.
Well,
crash.
you know,
Or download.
well,
I've lost mine by downloads a couple times and been for like a month or two without them.
well,
It's-
until Image went with the, what is it called? DMR, where you can actually download it onto your hard drive. Image books, you could download them on so you actually physically own a digital copy of it. When I first started reading digital comics through Comixology and whatnot, Marvel, DC, I don't technically own it. I'm going to their server and looking at it. If tomorrow somebody buys out Comixology and then decides, screw it, and they pull a plug on it because they want to do something different, what do you have?
Or you
Nothing.
accidentally violate their TOS, their terms of service, and you have a ton of comics on there, and they just decide to kick you off. Those are gone.
Yeah.
Like
So-
I've had this conversation with music because, like,
Yeah,
if
right.
iTunes decides to kick you off, your
Yeah.
music's gone.
Yeah,
You're
and that's and to some degree that's us and our antiquated. I need to physically own it versus the people who
Mhm.
don't care. I understand that. In the comments, Gordon Val says, there's that a new generation is growing up with digital media at home and at school. Never have to hold a physical copy of a book or a comic, which is happening more often. And that isn't a good sign, and that's true. I mean, there are more and more of that. My kids are 18 and 16. They're not quite at that stage. Some of their stuff is digital. They actually go to school. Some school books are digital. Some are still physical, copies or whatever. I believe most of them would prefer to have physical copies of the things they're physically reading. They enjoy that more. I think music-wise, digitally works for them because that's just easy to carry, your entire record collection around in your back pocket. So, it's kind of a mix of stuff, and I'm sure it is coming more and more that way.
Yeah,
And
my
then-
movies and music, I keep them digitally. The only thing I keep physical is comics.
That drives me nuts too. Though.
And I'm becoming more and more of a Luddite. I mean, now I'm back buying vinyl. I mean, the more I can get physically versus digitally, pretty soon.
Well, it's not even.
Pretty soon I'll be. I gotta heat my house. Let me get my 2 rocks out and crack them together to get the fire burning.
But the thing is, like, vinyl is superior, like in sound and everything. I don't think people realize that.
Mhm.
That's why I hate digital music, to be blatantly
wave.
honest.
It's a wave, right? It's
Yeah.
a wave. It's still its sound is still in its natural form versus right.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just drives me nuts that people don't understand why people want to pick up physical copies of comic books and stuff like that. It's like, no, I mean, really, I think the companies realize it too, because if they wanted to, even though they're making money hand over fist doing it this way, they could actually just charge whatever it takes for the server to be up. And that'd be a hell of a lot cheaper than the print costs and all of that for a physical comic.
Yeah.
And that would kill physical comics overnight. It would.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So I think they even realize.
Yeah,
Does
they
don't
sell
they-
them for like $1 a book.
But don't they charge like for a brand new comic when it comes out?
Price, the
I
same
don't.
price.
Same
Don't they
price.
char-
$4.
Same price.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
they decided to just charge much cheaper because they don't have to print anything, so they want to keep them alive too, to a degree.
But like I said, I personally have nothing against digital. I have nothing against people who buy in digital or read in digital. Man, there are some huge conveniences to that. I mean, Mike goes on vacation, he downloads a crap load of stuff onto his iPad. Boom, he's got a comic book collection he can walk around with and read while he's sitting on the deck of a cruise liner going wherever. That makes me jealous. I can't do that. I don't have that. I don't do that. I'm not going to take a long box with me on vacation to read whatever I want to. If I'm lucky, I pack a couple trades, and I can pack a couple because they start to get heavy after a while, and you only got so much room. You only got so much room while you're traveling. So I totally get that. I totally get that for reading books and all that kind of stuff too. It makes sense for convenience purposes to have that. For me personally, to really enjoy it at its most, to feel the most enriched, I want that physical copy that doesn't melt in my hands while I'm reading it for those covers that are bad covers. So, I get it all the way around. I think it's great that it's there. I don't want the dumbed down digital version of the media to affect the quality of the physical book. That's all I'm asking for, is to not have that happen.
And I do like how you slipped that boom in there too. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Melting.
any other books that you hear coming out that you're kind of excited about? I'm really curious. I hear that they're going to do a comic book version of Neil Gaiman's American Gods. That book.
What?
Yeah, they're gonna put it out in comic book form. So I might
for that.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that.
A TV show for it.
No, not TV. Comic book.
He's saying there's a TV show.
I heard rumors they're also going to adapt it for a television show too.
Right. I heard it's going to Showtime or HBO, something like that.
It'd have to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know. Yeah, Brian Fuller. Brian Fuller is the person who's producing that. People who don't know who Brian Fuller is, he did Hannibal. He did the really, really good episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, if you're into such things.
And I'll say this, the best Star Trek out of all of them, and I will fight with that to the death. Deep Space Nine is the best. So,
and not to name drop, he's a local boy from the town that I live in. So yeah. But at any rate,
so what happened to you?
Exactly right.
McFarland's from not too terribly.
I actually lived across the river in Idaho at the time. See, that's my excuse. So
all right.
But
TV was invented in that state, so
there you are.
People don't know that.
There you go.
It's true. No, I'm not even joking.
Well, I not where I'm at, but yeah. But anyway, so I'm kind of curious about that. Hearing that they're going to make that into a comic book, I'm not usually into adaptations. I don't get excited about my TV show being made into a comic book. Like Power Rangers or whatever. I'm not really that interested.
You're not a fan of IDW.
Exactly. I'm not. A lot of their stuff I don't. That doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't. It's not. It's. I tend to be. I guess I'm that person who, whatever the original content is, whatever medium it originally came out in, typically that's what I enjoy it in the most.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
But I am really curious about that comic book. So that being in a comic book form. So I'm. Yeah. I am
interesting. I haven't really been looking. I mean, Saucer, what's it called now? Saucer County?
No, Saucer County was what it was.
What's it called?
It's
no.
Damn it! It's Saucer something else that's supposed to be coming out, right, from Dark Horse. Yeah. Me and you are.
I'm looking forward to that because that's an idea.
You and me are the only people who even know what the hell we're talking about. So.
Yeah, that's going to IDW.
Yeah, it was an old Vertigo book. Is it IDW? That's who was taking it over? Couldn't remember who they sold it to.
Yeah, that's coming out next year, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping, I haven't read much about what it's going to be. I'm hoping it just picks up. I understand that they'll probably have to do some setup for people that are hopping on.
Yeah, I think it's like the next year kind of thing. After what happened at the end of this is a Vertigo title that was out a couple years ago. Drawn by Ryan Kelly, written by.
Oh, he did Wolverine for a little bit. I can't think of it.
Paul
Cornell.
Paul Cornell, right? The Cornell? It's something like that.
Something like that.
Vertigo title, that didn't sell really great, but it was an awesome book. The rabbits and all that kind of crazy stuff there. Basically, it has to do with a Latino senator who's running for president. There's an alien invasion. She has a history of having been abducted. There's all kinds of, you're not sure if it's political. There's some political manipulations going on. And is there some actual alien invasion happening kind of thing?
And that's what I liked though, is there was doubt.
Yeah, all the time.
On either end. Because there's this one character, he's this like super high level professor, and he has, do you guys remember the Saturn rocket that had like the naked people?
Uh-huh.
Does that sound familiar to anyone? So like NASA sent off this thing that if aliens ever found it, it pointed into our solar system to our planet and had two naked people basically saying what we look like.
Right.
And those two people started peering to this guy, and you're thinking the whole time either he's nuts or aliens are contacting him in a way. And it ends up being people in the hotel room using green screen.
Right.
Like
and projecting into it, so he thinks he's literally seeing this stuff. There's some great stuff in it, but there also is some actual potential alien. I mean, at one point, people they think they're being invaded by aliens, and it's so overwhelming that instead your sensory perception projects them as being rabbits. So it's like you're driving a car and there's just all these white rabbits all over the place. And Ryan Kelly did some covers of these really,
but they still had
rabbits.
The eyes. They still had the hack alien, oval almond eyes. So these rabbits are staring at them and they're right up against the car and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like
some freaky shit. Yeah.
It's like Lovecraft, how you go so nuts that your mind can't comprehend it. And then but there's still an element of is that real or not throughout that? I think we're selling it like it's this action-packed book. It's very slow-paced, but
right,
really well done in that way.
And like I said, it has to do with the fact this one woman, she's got this political career. She's a successful senator. She's running for president. And there's this secret they're trying to hide that she's been abducted and probed, or she believes she has. She's missing this time and all this stuff. And that's not the kind of thing well, I guess nowadays in American politics it wouldn't matter. But back when this comic was written, that's not the kind of thing you'd want exposed. It would be kind of a bad thing. And so there's this whole kind of let's keep it secret, and she wants to be president because she wants the information, because she knows the government has real information and she wants to expose it and all this stuff. So there's all this kind of, can't. Area 51, you can't have all, all that stuff.
What's the name of the book?
Saucer County.
Saucer.
But, or is it country?
It's Saucer Country, right? Yeah. And so now.
I will also say some of the best covers in comic books ever.
Yeah.
If you go and look at them, they're phenomenal. But it got canceled and they gave us one last issue. And I remember saying to Travis, I'm I hope they bring it back one day. And this was when we were still doing Gotham Girls way back when.
Way back, yeah.
With Sarah and them and Sarah and Natty. And I'm we're gonna bring it back one day. And we would joke about it. And then one day I get this tweet and it was Sauce or something else. And I'm I thought he'd photoshopped it at first. I was oh God. He remembered that even was crazy. Yeah. But they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They had to wait. They had to wait so long. Because it was a Vertigo and the contract, they had to wait so long for it to be done and not in print, so then they could get the full rights to it to then take it someplace else and do something else with it. So they're going to. So yeah, I'm excited about that to see when that hits and whatnot. I'll have to keep remembering that it's IDW instead of Dark Horse, so I make sure I'm looking ahead.
I'll look that up, but I'm pretty sure it's IDW because I remember that was the first thing I noticed when you tweeted that at me.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm not too worried about missing it because I follow the artist Ryan Kelly and he will put it out there and say, say something about it too. So
great art too. Speaking of which, in that too, not terribly stylized, but at the same time, there's some stuff in there that you're holy shit.
Yeah.
That's one I'm looking forward to. Long story short.
Okay. So it's Saucer County is volume 1, DaCosta's saying, and the new volume will be called Saucer Country.
Okay.
Because I thought they were fairly close to each other.
I was getting that mixed up with Harrow County, I think.
Right.
That's why I was thinking, maybe that's.
Right.
But yeah, it was just super good, and especially at that time in comics, that was only maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 years ago. But it was just such a different comic book compared to everything that was coming out, because everything else was very. If it was going with aliens and all that, it was very sci-fi and all that. But that was just it had its feet kind of on the ground most of the part, and then just these weird moments.
Yeah.
That kind of just weaved in there.
Yeah.
It was one of those things I'm I don't know if I'd recommend this to anyone, but
right. I think that's our problem. Every time we were talking about it, though, we were we love it, but I don't know that I would tell anybody else to go out and read it. Because then they got that whole kind of weird fairy thing at that one point in there. It's I don't know where we're going with that, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you hate cliffhangers, don't pick it up. That is definitely one that will, because there'd be one where you're so the alien's going to get them, then it would go to the next issue and it'd be oh, okay, they were just seeing shit. Okay. Well,
Right.
let's keep going with
They
the
wake
story.
up. They wake up really drunk. You know, that's the
Yeah.
problem is too. Is one of the main people that was supposed to be the facts, the guy that knew really what was, that remembered it all. He's also a raging alcoholic. So you're like, okay, how much?
He
of that
blacked
is him,
out. Yeah.
Yeah, how much of that is him being a drunken stupor and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, I think we've sold that comic enough. Let's.
What about also they're making the Commandy Omnibus. They're reprinting the whole Jack Kirby run.
Really in a colored omnibus?
And those big oversized ones,
Ooh.
sewn binding and everything. I think in the second half of next year, I'm getting that for sure.
Well, I might have to quadruple dip into that, I guess, or something.
Yeah, I had the old glued binding ones.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got rid of them when I heard this announcement. Well, I've been bugging them too. I keep putting it on DC on Twitter. But when are you guys making a Commandy Omni? When are you guys? So when they announced it, I was like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love that old.
Yeah, that's a
old book.
good
It's great.
read.
I mean, I have the singles. I have the first volume of the, of the artist edition. The big giant.
Yeah, I
pages,
saw the.
so,
Oh yeah, they're bringing out the second volume too.
So.
Yeah, that's a good read. That's
Fun
some
stuff.
good
Yeah. So I just figure next year's going to have lots of awesome stuff in it. I mean, this has been such a good year of comics. I mean, there's been not good stuff happen in comics. Some of the social media behavior and whatnot, it's horrible and whatnot. But as far as the actual content that's coming out, a lot of my books that I'm currently reading, I'm excited to see what's coming out in them next year. The East of West might.
I'm waiting for a second volume.
Might finish up this next year.
Yeah, Hickman said it was gonna be. Hickman said it was gonna be 3 books. He said it's gonna be 3 volumes.
Yeah.
And each one has 15 issues.
Right. Okay. So it'll last a little more than a year. Okay. I
don't know how you end that. I do not know how you end that.
I'm continue to be excited for whatever's going to happen in Lazarus. We've kind of reached a apex in that book. It feels like the main character's been exposed to even more of who and what she is. How she's going to take that information is going to be really, fascinating to see how that all plays out.
They have not let you have hope in that book at all.
Oh,
for
hell
society.
No. Oh, hell no.
I was like, okay, they're going to get a certain way into this, and then there's going to be like a rebel group that's at no.
This is the thing that gets me is that anybody who follows Rudka at all or knows his kind of political bent, he's definitely left. I'm sure this election, keep going back to politics, has just kind of, sucked what little bit of hope that man had in him out, kind of a thing. So I just wonder if that book's even going to get even darker than what it already is. I'm not sure how it can. Yeah, because it's kind of steeped in reality. It's steeped in this near future corporates and corporate families kind of run the world. So it's depressing as hell, but oh so good.
Did you guys read his old Wonder Woman run?
Bits and pieces. I have not read the whole thing. Bits and pieces.
I just picked up the trade. I haven't read it though.
Oh, cool.
But I thought it was the current one from right now. But it says it's a old run from issue 190 to 200, I think, or 205.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of makes her into a peacemaker, basically. Yeah. There's just a lot of comics that I'm excited to see what happens to them in the.
That's the kind of thing is I think I'd have more like, I'm looking forward to this if we were in a drought, but we're really not.
Right.
So I haven't really been paying attention that far down, like down the pike, if you will, of what's coming out. Because I mean, maybe like last year there was a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for that, like Black Magic and stuff to come out. But this year it's like, God, there's just been so many good things. I haven't even been able to keep up.
Yeah.
I would say it was just stuff that's coming out right now.
Yeah.
Let alone. Like we throw House of Penance out there, and it's like, God, I don't know if a lot of people are even reading that, and it was so good.
Yeah.
What about what issue is Black Widow on? I was enjoying Black Widow. That was pretty good.
I don't remember what issue. Is it like 13 now, Mike? Do you remember?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I want to say it's something like that. It continues to be awesome. I mean, to me, it feels it still feels like it's Samney driven. His art is really what it's about, and then Wade puts intelligent words to go along with what's going on. It is so perfect for the character, I think too. It is so fluid. The art is a dance in and of itself, and that just matches up very well with, of course, Black Widow.
This is the first. This is the first time I've seen that. What is it, Samney? That artist?
Yeah.
This is the first time my first introduction to him, and when I was reading it, damn, that art is good. I felt like you didn't even need a lot of words to tell the story.
Right.
No, that's what he's.
As I say, those first issues, there wasn't really much.
Yeah, there wasn't much words.
Yeah.
It made Daredevil easy to drop, really, because I was like, I got this over here. That's kind of the Daredevil I was enjoying. If you like that Samney art and the writing of all this, go read that Daredevil run. They had a pretty lengthy Daredevil run not that long ago.
Yeah, I think they're bringing out an omnibus with Samney and Wade.
Yeah, and so, but it's not. You can't say like this Black Widow run is exactly like Daredevil at all. It's its own thing, but it's. I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess. It's really good, but it's different, but it still has that same feel of that team.
Yeah, because they're kind of different characters.
Yeah.
But man, that Black Widow is good. I read up to like issue 8. I have to catch up. But that one's good.
So glancing over the comments and stuff, Brandon had some issues of his internet, so he's just back in the chat now. And he was asking if we'd already talked about the new Wildstorm universe headed by Ellis. And we haven't. I'm not a big Wildstorm universe fan as far as knowing a lot about it. I kind of picked up bits and pieces here and there, but I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see Ellis back working on properties that are somewhere within the DC universe after so many years of him swearing he was never going to work for DC again after some of the stuff that went on in his past when he worked on Hellblazer. So I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, he used to work on those characters and stuff, so I'm excited to see him bring that back. I know there's cool characters in there, the Jenny Sparks stuff, and I'm not real excited by the guy with what's the guy's name that has the red curtain in front of his face.
Oh, Grifter. Oh, Grifter's cool.
Yeah, I'm not a big Grifter fan, but some of the other stuff.
Ed Brubaker wrote a Grifter title.
Yeah,
I think like 10
and or something. The artist from Clean Room is going to that. Is
right,
that correct?
Right. That's what Davis Davis Hunt is doing. Is he's going to go and do that? Yeah. So I'll be checking it out.
Yeah.
Did they say what titles were going to be on there?
There's one main title that I can't remember the name of. Authority. I think it's Authority. I want to say. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then he is going to kind of do like what Gerard Way is doing with the Young Animals, in that he's doing that one himself, and then he's kind of overseeing, helping, getting started another title or two, I believe, is the last I heard about it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm looking forward to Young Animals, but I'm interested to see which characters they're going to use, because when they said that, I immediately thought like Midnighter, Apollo, and I'm like, well, no, you don't want to necessarily take them out of DC, so I'm kind of interested. I think if they get really creative with it, it could be really good, and have him kind of be almost editorial to a degree, kind of like Way is over on Young Animals.
Right.
It's like, okay, I want to see where this is going with this. I think, if it was
I feel like he's done such a decent job for Marvel, because he's kind of, his contract with them has been over the last years. It's just been, hey, we want you to take a property and kind of re-kickstart it, kickstarting Moon Knight. I like what he did, kind of where he started with Moon Knight, and kind of where he took it for a little bit that he was on it. I liked, what's the Inhuman title? I'm drawing a blank on it, even though it came out really slow because of the art problems.
Johnny Carson's character. That should be your clue.
Karnak.
There you go.
I really liked his take on Karnak. I liked the kind of philosophical what was going on and whatnot. I mean, I think he's just done some interesting stuff with stuff in the past.
Is that done?
I have not seen any solicitations for it for at least like 6 months. So,
wow. What I liked is it got to the core of that character, because he's the one Inhuman that hasn't. People don't realize this. He's the one that hasn't breathed in the mist, and yet. And all of that. So, like, I mean, really interesting take on the character. Is he done with Marvel altogether? Or?
I don't know that that's the case. I just don't know what his contract is anymore there or whatnot. Clearly, he's not exclusive anymore. He's clearly, like I said, just shocked me. The first thing I heard was that he was doing Wildstorm stuff, which is because I know that way back in the day, he had a falling out with some people that, he had a story he wanted to do and they edited it and then wouldn't do it, and he walked off the job basically and said, I'm not putting up with these people's shenanigans. So those people must be long gone. The right people apologized. I don't know what. Doesn't matter to me. Just was surprised to see that he was going to be back doing that.
Do you think next year they'll because I know Young Animals is supposed to be not necessarily a long-term thing. Do you think if it's as successful as it seems to be, they'll continue it? Because I've read here and there that it's not supposed to be a long-term thing.
Why would they stop doing it if it's successful? I guess that's why I look at it.
It's DC.
I mean, I guess if somebody hates it, but like Dan loves Wade. I mean, he thinks he's a great kid and whatnot. So I mean, so the at least unless there's a falling out of personalities, that aspect of that bridge is still there. So I think that helped keeps a book around. So even I mean, yes, I know it's DC and they have a habit of even something successful, they can kind of shit can it sometimes. But the personal conflicts aren't there. And sometimes what shit cans some of those things is the personal conflicts between peoples. So I don't know. I hope not. I'd like to see Doom Patrol go more than 20 issues. That'd be kind of special, wouldn't it? Seems how most of the time it goes about 20 issues and then gets canned.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to see more Mother Panic. So.
Yep. I'm curious to see where that goes.
That's what I like is I'm kind of somewhat enjoying everything in that, but everyone that has like a favorite, it's different than like everyone else's from that. That's how diverse it is. Because I'm liking Cave Carson. I'm loving that.
Yeah.
I know some people didn't like Mother Panic.
I loved it.
I thought it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. I wouldn't say it's the best out of Young Animals by any stretch.
For me, it's a toss-up between Cave Carson and Mother Panic. Which one of them is on the bottom?
I could see that.
I actually, huge Doom Patrol fan, love Doom Patrol. I'm actually liking Changing Girl best.
Yeah.
As far as actual story goes, that's the book I'm enjoying the most. Of course, I really love Doom Patrol. I mean, I have zero problems with it. I'm enjoying that kind of it too. And then for me, between the Cave Carson and Mother Panic, and the thing with Mother Panic that I love, I just love that character's kind of disdain for Gotham and all of that stuff, where everybody else, all the other Batmans always look at Gotham and despite all of its problems have some sort of romantic notion about Gotham, and she is just like, F this. This is a shithole. It's always going to be a shithole. kind of, and I just like that. I like the fact that she doesn't have a romantic view of Gotham, whereas every other damn character, doesn't matter how bad Gotham is, they somehow can romanticize it in some fashion, and she doesn't. And so I appreciate it for that.
I can see that. I don't know. I just felt like she was kind of retreaded character-wise in a lot of other ways. Like they could have made a completely original character, but they kind of went, oh, this girl's a badass. And it's like, well, there are some women that can still beat up. They don't have to be like, oh, fuck authority, fuck Batman. Like I felt like that was kind of trite for me.
Sure.
I was kind of treaded. It's like you have Batwoman over here and you had another Batgirl over here that were kind of that character. You should have made kind of a new character that doesn't like Gotham. That I did like that element because I've never understood why that even has a population over 1 million people. Because if you had the Joker going loose all the time and stuff, I would probably be looking to move.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that element. I like Cave Carson because it's old school science fiction.
Yeah, it is.
Shade the Changing Girl, I think, is probably the sleeper out of all of those because I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't realize it was probably going to be the best.
Yeah.
And then Doom Patrol, I get why people don't like it, but at the same time, it's like.
But I guess my thing is maybe this is me just being snotty. Why a lot of people don't like it is why I love it all the more. The fact that it is kind of random and.
That's kind of what it was, though, for a while there with Doom Patrol. Like, if you go back far enough, obviously it was more straightforward of a comic, but
even that was kind of bonkers. Even that was kind of even if you go back to the stuff when they were still My Greatest Adventures and stuff, it still had an element of just kind of unhinged. It was simpler, but it still had this kind of unhinged elements. You know, when Changeling Beast Boy shows up, the arguments over who's he going to go live with, the divorce, and that there was just some weird random crap in there, and
I ordered that book. They brought out a omnibus of that too. That's coming out, I think, in February. So I said $10. I think it said like $12 on Amazon. So it said like $12. So I pre-ordered it. Then like 2 months later, they canceled it and they tell me, "Oh, we don't have that book. It's not gonna be available after all." So I was like, "Fine." And then I find out they recently re-put it back up for sale, but it's really like $150 book.
Yeah, I was supposed to say $12. I wasn't saying what at it being released. I was saying what because I paid a lot more money than that.
Yeah, they told me that, and a lot of people told me, "Oh, we still got ours. Like we still ordered that. Like they said that happened with other omnibuses before on Amazon, and they go, oh, we still if they sell it to you for 10 originally, you still get it at that price if you complain. That's what you originally ordered it for that price." So I was thinking, I was like, should I even call? But I was like, nah, like I don't want to go through all that. So they said, just email them, and they're forced to abide by the rules that they set, that they sell it to for whatever price it had when you ordered it.
But yeah, they haven't really announced outside of that main title, Warren Ellis's Wildstorm. They haven't announced any of the other comics, have they?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I just like the idea of him kind of being editorial, seeing what he does.
Right. Where is he gonna drive that universe? Where is he gonna drive it to? Yeah. Same here.
I'd love to see him be editorial over DC. Like that would be interesting. I would read that. Why not? I mean, Superman would be different, but other than that.
And I can just imagine all the swear words he'd be saying at you if he could hear you say that. Because I can't imagine him ever wanting to do something like that. So,
by the way, he has sometimes. I mean, Travis has told me this. He's sometimes checked out this thing. So if he does and he gets this far in,
that'll be hilarious. Yes. So
yeah.
I want to see if he brings out a Gen 13 for Wildstorm.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that they could do. They could even reboot. I mean, look, I've seen pictures of Grifter. Why not, instead of having just Grifter, why not do the Wildcats if you're going to go that far and have someone take that on? I mean, Grifter, I think, by himself is not an interesting character. He's kind of like a character over at Marvel that everyone seems to love. That I think is
yeah.
No.
Oh, I thought because he needs to feed.
He wears red too.
Yes. That I think needs kind of a straight man. I mean, Deadpool, I think, by himself is not an interesting character. You kind of need someone to bounce off of. But yeah, Wildcats have him be in a team because I don't know. Am I the only one in here right now that read that weekly that had him in it a couple years ago? What was it called? Oh wow, Future's End.
Yes, you're the only one that read it. I didn't read it. That's one of the reasons why I didn't, because he was in it. Because I remember the that New 52 stuff with him was just
he really dragged that down. I mean, the ending obviously people didn't like, but everything else of that was amazing. And then you got to him, and he was just kind of. It was like you had this kind of neat modern stuff, and then the 90s just kind of peppered in every couple of minutes. You're just like, all right, we get it. You're brooding. We get it. You're edgy. It's like, all right, enough.
You know what you gotta read, Travis? If you're gonna read Wildcats, you gotta read the Joel Casey and Sean Phillips run.
Yeah.
That one's all right. It's not too bad.
Yeah. That's so funny because you missed all of that.
I did, but it all makes me nervous just because of the art style of that era, the Jim Lee and Liefeld and all that kind of stuff. I shy away from all that. I mean, I hear there's great concepts in there and some great stuff, but
I never read the Jim Lee one.
Visually, that stuff is really hard for me to consume.
Yeah,
I never read the Jim Lee one, but I picked up the Sean Phillips Wildcats run. It's from like '99 and 2000, and that's the reason I picked it up was because the artist, and it's a lot different.
Wildcats? Where's Jen? Wildcats. All right. Well,
I am starting to become hoarse because we've been on so long. Is there anything else we feel like we want to talk about? Anything that's coming forward? Any whatever?
I'm just excited to hear about who's gonna be the new actor and director for the Miss Marvel movie. I think they said they're gonna announce it like pretty soon. Early next year.
Oh yeah, Ms. Marvel, huh? Oh,
I think it's called Captain Marvel, but yeah, the Carol Danvers.
oh, Captain Marvel. Okay. They got a different actor. What's her face isn't going to do it anymore.
I don't know. They already named who it was. I thought they were barely gonna announce it.
Yeah, no, I thought they had an actress name that was going to be it, but the rest of it
can't
was
think
kind
of her
of
name, but
Bree, isn't it? Bree,
can't
is her
think
name
of
like Bree or something weird like
Brie
that?
Larson.
See, I kind of know my stuff.
Yeah, they said they were gonna announce the director and like actor
Okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
no, I think they've had problems with directors, but they've announced her, and she's been yeah.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that too. That ought to be interesting.
Yeah, especially I like that because I don't know too much about her, so I like to go into a movie like without any prior knowledge of the character.
I'm just wondering where they're going to actually take off from her origin, because she's got a long history.
Right.
Like, people might not know that, but I mean, you're not going to see like Rogue walk up and touch her. Like, that would be crazy.
No, what?
Yeah,
No, that would be awesome.
it.
That'd be awesome. They went back to her in the leotard with the big giant lightning bolt, and her getting her power sucked away from her and shit.
When she was Miss Marvel. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
people forget.
Then Storm took her uniform after with the lightning bolt and all that.
Yes.
She took it
Well,
after.
they're gonna butcher the origin. That's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't add. I forgot about that. You're right. They can't add that whole Rogue story and everything.
Well, that was only like for her. I mean, don't get me wrong; it was a big part of her story.
What's a
But
big
that
part of
was not-
Rogue's?
But it went back. Her history goes back much further when she was Miss Marvel. and all that.
Right.
Captain Marvel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for Rogue, that's a big part of the X-Men storyline. Is she comes out a lot on X-Men because of Rogue.
Yeah.
She basically is another Miss Marvel.
I love those stories back then. Those X-Men, those Chris Claremont.
Yeah, that's
Era.
usually the best run.
There's like a couple glimpses of that in the 90s. Like, there was this Ghost Rider crossover they did where the Brood has landed on Earth, and Dan Ketch, who's the new Ghost Rider, has been implanted with one, and it gets that kind of dark weirdness. You're like, oh, why don't they do this anymore? All I needed was Storm to have the Mohawk, and you'd be like, all right, now we're kind of.
I loved all that stuff, and with
Yeah,
Sumner's
the early 80s.
Sumner's coming back as a telepathic hunter, and she's dealing with the fact that she's from the future, where she's this awful stuff, and the Wraiths and
Madeline Pryor
good stuff, and Storm getting shot with the gun that was made by Forge, basically her boyfriend at the time, and she gets hosed and loses her powers and all that stuff. And
when she's turned into a teen again.
The Morlocks, and she gets in the knife fight and beats the mutants and ends up being the leader of the Morlocks and the X-Men.
She's a master bullfighter.
Kicks the shit out of Scott, which I thought was awesome because I don't like Cyclops, never have. So yeah.
Are you looking forward to the Jean Grey comic?
No.
Oh.
God no.
Oh yeah, that's
Jean Grey is like top 10 Marvel characters I hate. So I do not understand the appeal of that character. I do not understand why Scott Summers nor Wolverine have the hots for that girl. I do not understand it one bit. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
That's what I always said. I said, you have Storm right there. Why is Wolverine into Jean Grey that's taken when Storm is right there? And they make like a better couple in the stories where they're in the future.
Because you want what you can't have.
I guess.
But that's, I think, for another time.
Even if it tastes really bad. Alrighty, guys.
I'm going to call it a night.
Yes. Thanks, guys, for coming on and chatting. Thank you for the people who hung out. There were plenty of people who hung out in the comments and watched off and on throughout this thing. Always appreciate it. Anybody who watches this later on, hit us up in the comments. What did we miss? What's the great stuff? What's the tragedies? Is there possibly worse ads than what was in some of these DC books? Let us know. We'd be curious. Are we way off base on if you don't like a book, just quit reading it and quit complaining, or what? Let us know. At any rate, have a great night and a happy New Year, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. Officially, we'll be back in like 3 weeks or so, and yeah. Until then, happy reading and whatever else. Stay warm. Bye, everybody.